Welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, and it is 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters, Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
Thank you.
We could all rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just have one change for the agenda, and that is to add State Representative Gossett Seidman is here today, and she will also be providing legislative updates. Any other changes to the agenda? If no changes, we got a motion?
I move that we accept the agenda as changed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So presentations, we have our first presentation, the state legislative update by Senator Lori Berman. If you could please come up. Oh, and Gossett Seidman and State Representative Gossett Seidman together. Okay, great.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here with you. Congratulations to the new members on the council. Very happy to see you all up there. So we're gonna kind of divide it a little bit. I am gonna focus on the preemption issues because I always think it's important to tell you what Tallahassee did on preemption, and this year is no exception, unfortunately. And then Rep. Gossett Seidman will talk a little bit more about some of the budget issues and the village issues. Oh, we got Mike. Okay. We did do our budget, which is our only thing that we have to do. And we did do $117 billion budget. Who is here? How successful Highland Beach was, and I do want to give a special shout out to your lobbyists, Jared Rosenstein. He couldn't be here today, but did an excellent job helping us in this session. So for those who don't know, preemption is when the state says that we are taking over an issue and that a local municipality or county cannot pass any laws along those lines. For the most part, I vote against preemption bills, and I think everyone that I'm going to talk about, I voted against. I'm a big believer in home rule, and I think that the government closest to the people, like we see here today, is really the most effective. So I'll go through a couple of the different bills that we passed this year on preemption. And I will start it by saying that last year we passed a really big bill about preemption, and they called it the mother of all preemptions, and they said there would be no more preemptions. So that didn't happen, unfortunately. We passed HB 433. It prevents local governments from putting any additional heat exposure safety measures on employers. The city of Miami was going to mandate water breaks and shade for some agriculture and construction workers, and the state of Florida said, no, we're not going to allow that. We're going to take over that issue. So you cannot pass any laws along those lines. In connection with the big agricultural package that we passed this year, which was 1084, one of the things we said was that cities cannot have any regulations regarding electric vehicle charging stations. So that's another area that we preempted. We also passed a bill that was very controversial last year. It was 1526, and it has to do with local regulation of non-conforming structures. And so if you had a structure in your area that was non-conforming and unsafe, if it was a historic structure, the historic boards used to have input if you were going to destroy it or take it down. And then they would have requirements about putting up a new one that would probably have to meet some of the historic requirements. That was preempted. So that is no longer the law. So if there is a demolition of a historic structure, you cannot place any requirements saying it has to be rebuilt in a certain manner. And then the one that's probably the most, the largest one that we passed this year and a little bit shocking to me because I've been in the legislature now for 14 years and we've been discussing this issue often and it usually doesn't move forward, was the vacation rental bill. So it's a pretty big preemption. If you have any laws on your books after 2014 that regulate like Airbnb or VRBO or any of those people who are coming in, those are pretty much going to be preempted and the state is going to control that issue. So as part of that bill, there are things that are very specific about how many people can be in a unit, how many people can be in a bedroom, but those are put forth by the state. Cities can no longer regulate those areas. The one thing that was done as kind of a compromise was to say cities can require registration. You can charge a registration fee. No, we didn't set any limits on that. And you can require inspections and you can require an inspection fee. But other than those things, most of the rest of it was preempted to the state, which is pretty surprising. I'm gonna let Rep. Gossett Seidman talk about the budget and a couple bills, and then maybe we'd like to talk about insurance also. We'll give you a little update on that also.
Thank you, Senator. Senator and I worked many days and hours at the Capitol together with a lot of luck. I concur with the senator on the vacation rental bill. I voted down on that. It was, I was up there with you all at one point and worked with League of Cities, and there were just some issues within it I did not agree with. I vote down when I need to support our district and our residents here. If I could just add on the tear down along the beaches, I do know that they carved out St. Augustine, I believe, and Palm Beach, but not Miami Beach. And the reason, because we're a beach community here, the reason for that is Miami Beach made the error of lumping blocks and blocks together as an historical data instead of each individual building. And it was just a matter of paperwork. They'll have to sort that out. But this did come to pass after the hurricane and the Gulf Coast. And I drove that storm. My brother lives over there. The buildings that were demolished were the old plywood and, palm frond roof buildings, and the new built to code buildings did sustain hardly any damage. So the effort of it, while not perfect, was to allow old buildings in this form to be removed without having to rebuild to its code. So that's the explanation. It wasn't a perfect bill, and like others, we can tweak it going forward. I think for the budget, the two biggies in the budget were medical and education. Education, I sat as vice chair of K through 12 APROPS. And for education, we decided to beef up as much as we could. When I moved here from Michigan, the Florida schools were like a joke, like, oh, you don't want to stay in Florida to go to school. And now that's the complete opposite. Even our little neighbor FAU here, thanks to basketball and and it's fine at science department, has come a long way. And so education, we beefed up as much as we could. The voucher system is still in place. We put more money into some of the special needs education services, which we've got now 1,200 people a day moving to Florida. We were anticipating future needs for the residents moving in, many of them with children. Then medical, it was a huge bill, just Senator Passidomo's baby, you might be able to talk even better about that, was to revamp and buttress the medical services throughout the state. And it's not, you can find a doctor in Boca, you can't always find one in the Panhandle. I mean, for those who haven't driven north of Martin County, it looks like Oklahoma or Iowa. It's you've got rural areas and cattle farms and vegetable farms, and they don't always have doctors or dentists or ophthalmologists or anything else for that matter there to serve the people. So this bill focuses on bringing in talent just in a different system in order to provide services there and provide more funding for services. So those were the two areas that we worked very hard on and tweaking individual counties' needs. Whereas we represent you all, we get up there and represent the whole state with our colleagues. So we have to weigh in everyone's needs. And that's a biggie. The senator and I ran two very voluminous bills we're very proud of. The first one was support for Israel 2 days after the war broke out. So that was October 9th. We were the first to get that together along with Rep. Waldron of Wellington. And the second was our, what used to be called Safe Waterways Act and is now entitled Sampling of Public Waters and Public Bathing Spaces. Yes, I still call it Safe Waterways. This started right here in Highland Beach, actually. The senator had other people come to her, and I woke up one Saturday and called Marshall, Friday, and called Marshall, said, our beaches are closed. Did you know it's contaminated waters at Bellito Bridge? No, no one bothered to tell the town. Turns out that this is a policy statewide. If there is a breakage, providing contamination flowing into the waterways, whether it's gasoline, sewage, people, there have been instances of trucks out in the glades. They just pull up to a canal and dump their extra load off into the canal. Well, that makes its way east to the intercoastal and west of the Gulf. And then we see it in Lake Boca a week later. So this bill requires cities and counties and the state for that matter to report within 24 hours if there's a contamination, to share the information with residents via email, text, phone. We're all set up for electronic messaging. I mean, we know when a shark's in the water, you clear the beaches, or when you even suspect a shadow was seen by some drone, they clear the beach. They were never clearing the beaches for sewage. So we were swimming in it for all of these years. That's going to stop, and we are very proud of that bill. We work very hard on that. We were, what do we call ourselves?
Women warrior,
Water Women Warriors. There were
Yeah.
4 of us. Senator Rodriguez out of Miami jumped on because she has all of the keys in the south half of the Everglades. And then Rep. Cross from Clearwater jumped onto the bill because she's an environmental scientist. So we were 4 of us, and people took notice when 4 women get up and talk about water. So we were very proud of that. Those were very important bills for us. And I think that we continue to work well together. Something that I do wish to say that isn't always said, when you read the Post or the Sun Sentinel, you hear the news, what they want to report, 99%, well, 95% of the time, we are very productive in Tallahassee. We get along, we have a lunchroom together, we share ideas, we have everybody's cell numbers, and we get along great. We try very hard to do the right thing by the people. I've only met one person who I didn't feel was trying to do right by the people, wasn't an elected official. I just want to put that in. So do you want to speak back to any of the other,
Sure.
maybe wrap up about the medical, because that was a major Senate bill.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great bill that had a lot of, I think it was unanimous support in both chambers. And some of the things it does is we created medical residencies because we know if somebody does a residency, they stay. We gave some student loan forgiveness, and it's not just for doctors, it's healthcare providers. It's all the way across the spectrum. They're also trying to do some emergency room diversion so that people don't go to emergency rooms for their regular care. And that's especially in rural areas also. So it's a wonderful bill. I did want to say that we got 2 appropriations for the city of Highland Beach. We're very proud of that. Working together. So one is for a clean water project for lift station rehabilitation. That's for 250,000. And the other project is state A1A gravity sanitary sewer rehabilitation, and that is for $875,000. So very proud and happy to work together with Peggy. We really work well together, and I will tell you that the entire Palm Beach County delegation works well together. We want to bring money back here to Palm Beach County. We're a donor county because we are wealthier than a lot of the rest of the state, but we still are entitled to our fair share, and we go there and we do all fight for it. Just a little bit of an update on the insurance issue. I'm sorry to say that we didn't do very much on the insurance issue. The feeling of leadership was that we've done things in the past and that they're going to wait and kind of see how the market plays out. You may have heard there are 8 new carriers in the state, but you may have also seen that there was a report that some of those carriers may be very undercapitalized. So we're kind of in limbo. And the way I feel about it also is you're hearing that they're expecting the market to level out. They're not talking about dropping. So don't anticipate that your premiums are going to change much, hopefully. But what leadership is hoping is that you don't get a 20, 30, 40% increase like we've seen in past years, unfortunately. So I would have liked, there were some really good ideas still put forth about insurance and I think we need to think out of the box. We've been doing this for so long and we're not getting the results we need. But this year there wasn't anything. There were a couple good programs that we're doing. One is My Safe Florida Home. And what it says is you can apply for up to $10,000 and you have to match that money 2-for-1. And you can use that money to, you would have somebody come out and do a hurricane inspection mitigation report. And then you can use the money to get new doors, new windows, help to secure your roof, your garage door. We did do one change. We put 200 million more into the program, but which is probably not even enough. And with the one change that we did, it's not going to go very far. The change that we did, we probably should have done from the beginning, and that's that we made it a priority for low-income people and seniors. So they will, when the money opens up on July 1st, which it will, they get priority, and then it goes, there's 5 categories till it gets down to the regular person. So you may not see much money, especially with $200 million. It's got the money that's been in that program has gone very fast in the past. And I think we're going to see that, but I'm glad that we're going to prioritize our low income and seniors. And we also did a pilot program for condominiums to actually get My Safe Florida Home. And that condo associations will be able to get up to $175,000. And we put 30 million into that program. And my office, we're keeping a list right now. It's going to open up July 1st. So if anybody's wants to get on the list, I passed out the bulletin and have my office information in it. Do you want to? Yeah.
I want to add that on this My Safe Florida Home program, the homeowner must work off of a prepared list of contractors. And that list is available online. I know my office also has helped many residents they think they can just call their brother-in-law to do the repairs, and that doesn't work. It has to be a certified, appropriate contractor. We don't want to go back and fix what the brother-in-law didn't do right. So that's very specific. I know, I don't know if Jeff is here, but I'm sure he's on top of that. Furthermore, it also covers the roof straps, the tie downs that tie the roof to the structure. You know, they're trying to go even above the codes in some places because that is critical, particularly, 7 miles from the beach and inland. And then for the My Safe Florida Home also, the seniors, and if you're senior and you're underserved, that is regarded. There's a mapping that is being used by the government, by Tallahassee, to look where your house is when you apply. And so that's kind of a consideration. Are you near the beach? Are you in an underserved area? And that to be fair is taken a top priority. And I will add on the insurance side, from the house's perspective, from my chamber, we were very dissatisfied with the outcome. And there were some people who were very, very angry with the fact that we did not get something done on insurance. Our former rep, Mike Caruso, I can't quote him here, but he's a CPA, and I think he's got some good ideas coming forth for next session. He was very angry that he's got the coastline actually of Palm Beach, from around South Palm Beach all the way up to Jupiter. So he's got over half of Palm Beach County. We will come back and we will fight this. Part of the issue is our property values are rising. So we got more to insure, and people don't understand that. And the other thing is, this is a nationwide problem. Florida was the first state ever, after Andrew hit 31 years ago, to actually work with the whole country and regard the values put forth by insurance. And this was not a good idea. So what the insurers did back then is they spun off their home insurance into a new little side company and went on with their auto and their business and held that differently. And that really, looking back, they should have kept the 3 entities together, and maybe we can work on that in the future. You're not going to see your values cut in half or a third or anything right away, but we are working on it. And there are a lot of very angry legislators up there to perhaps portray what our residents are feeling. I want to just say that we're not thinking, oh, everything is fine and the daisies are blooming. It's not.
And I like to end on a little happier note. So we do some fun things up there. You may recall last year we did the strawberry shortcake was the state dessert. Although key lime pie is still the state pie. But this year, the bill that I thought that was the most fun that we had the best time with was honoring our state's troubadour. And so we are renaming A1A from Jacksonville down to Key West, and it is now going to officially be called Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway. Yeah. Yeah, so it's my pleasure and honor to represent all of you, and I'm so glad to be here with all of you today.
Thank you very much. Do we have any
Yeah, happy to
questions?
answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from anyone? Any comments, questions? No? No?
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for working, getting those 2 grants and that. And I know you're gonna work on insurance. I know that's the biggest thing condos are talking about going up. Sometimes double, triple. I heard a couple condos went down, so that's very important. Thank you again.
Yeah, and condos are being hit also because of Surfside too, so it's a double whammy because they have to deal with that and property insurance.
I think that the My Safe Florida is a very exciting program. I'm sure that the residents of my community and the whole town are going to really look at that closely. And you'll have a lot of applications
Okay.
before July 1st, I'm sure. Thank you again.
If I can recommend getting them in early, because it probably
Yeah.
will be a mad rush when the portal opens, so you
Mhm.
can get organized now.
Thank you.
We did pass an ordinance regarding vacation homes, but it was primarily registration
Oh,
and inspections.
So you
And
should be
it
okay.
was things like showing where local hospitals were and things of that nature. And yeah, really it was so that we knew where they were.
Good, good. Yeah, so you should be all right. You can run it by your town attorney, but sounds okay.
Thank you for all your hard
Thank you.
work.
Yes, thank you for your hard work and dedication. I know it's a lot, especially to be up there in Tallahassee. So we really appreciate it. And I really do hope you can do something about the insurance because it's really tough and making homeownership very difficult to afford. It's it used to be a side thought when you had a home. Now it's like a main issue when you're
Yeah.
considering a home. So I hope,
I mean, it
hope
used to
there's.
be property taxes. People who couldn't
Right.
afford to stay in their homes. Now because of property insurance, they can't
Right, I
afford
know.
to stay in their homes.
It's really bad. So I hope, I really hope you guys come up with a
Yeah,
good
me too.
solution. I know we got good people working up there. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, see you soon.
Next item, the Sea Turtle presentation by Joanne Ryan.
Thank you. Okay, are you gonna move the slides for me? Okay, okay, great. You can stay on the first one for now. Yeah, I want to kind of explain. Okay, so 1 year ago, Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team became a 501c3, and the town gave us a very generous donation, kicked us off, and I wanted to just show you guys some of the accomplishments we've had in 2023. So the first thing we did was create a logo, and the vision for the logo was that Highland Beach is a coastal community. It's very beachy, and I wanted to incorporate the colors of the inshore water and the Gulf Stream waters. But then I worked with a guy who actually used to be a turtle person, and now he's a graphic designer. And he gave me some concepts, and then I had a vision of when we release our little hatchlings and they go off in the water. I always tell everyone, wait 10 or 20 seconds, they're going to pop up for a breath of air. So what we have is we have a turtle coming up for a breath of air. We have the sun rays in the background, and we have beautiful aqua waters. But the one thing I wanted to point out that we did work together on is if you look closely at the back of the turtle shell,
Yep.
you're going to see we incorporated the HB for Highland Beach.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
And here we have a real juvenile green sea turtle, and we have a large population of those right offshore here. So it's kind of similar, and the colors kind of match. And that green sea turtle helps mow the yard out there in the seagrass. That green sea turtle is eating all the algae off the seagrass out there and keeping the ecosystem nice and clean. So one of the reasons why they're so important to our ecosystem. We can go on to the next. Okay, so the next thing we did was we had a record-breaking season last year. You may have heard, it was all over the news. The whole state of Florida had record-breaking turtles. We had to buy supplies. We had to keep, we had record-breaking heat. We kept our team in cooling towels and hope they would survive the 2 hours they had on the beach in the morning. And this, we did not buy kitty litter, so you can ignore the kitty litter, but that's a storage bin at one of our volunteers' homes where her husband every year cleans the steaks and repaints them for us. And he stores up to 500 steaks each season. And some of our volunteers keep stuff at home too, but they're big help. And so we did buy some supplies last year. Then we hosted our first recognition party since before COVID. It was long overdue to get the team together. As you can see, Mayor Moore was there and Barbara Nessler with the Preservation Board. We had our friends from Gumbo Limbo. We had the son of the first permit holder in the town of Highland Beach. He came and told some funny stories and we had a really lovely night. So that some of the funds went to have a really nice night. And finally, we updated our team uniforms. We took out the generic turtle on the t-shirts. We put in our new logo. We still have the town seal on the back, but we also incorporated the dry weave technology shirts to keep them cool and dry. And we still have our cotton t-shirts. So we were able to do all that with the generous donations between the town and the associations that gave us some money and the residents. So I'd like to thank everyone for their ongoing support to keep our programs going. That's it.
Well, terrific. Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or
No,
comments?
but I heard you got some turtles already, some leather nets.
We do. We have 6 leatherback nests. We're back out there. Here we are. We had a little bit of downtime and March 1st, we were out there. We had our first one March 20th. Last year, we had our first one March 6th, which was really early, but this year already we have 6, which is really nice. And 2 years ago, we had 13 total. So we're hoping to break that record this year. And it's only April. They'll nest until June. And the loggerheads are already coming in. Boynton had their first nest. So we anticipate any day those loggerheads will be taking over the beach. And last year in Highland Beach, we had 990 loggerhead nests.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think that the celebration you had last year, that was your first,
Yeah.
because you guys did not you weren't set up to receive any donations. So I think last year was the first time. And so, yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. And it was really terrific. It really served as a way to kind of get everyone together. And at least this is my observation. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but to really rejuvenate the team. It's like a once a year type thing. And they hand out awards and it almost seemed like like to kind of rejuvenate the team and get everyone ready for the next year and to recognize accomplishments, which is really important to keep the team together and to keep everyone focused on what the ultimate goal is, which is to, protect these sea turtles for the environment, for the species, for so many reasons. So it was so much more than a party, so much more than a celebration. It was really a motivating and continual recruitment of the team, going forward. I think I sensed everyone is very passionate about what they do. They're out there every morning. I don't know how they do it so early in the morning doing what they do. It's extremely impressive. And it was really great to be a part of. So congratulations, and I'm glad. And I thought it was a very important event for you to do, and like to keep it going, you know, to keep-
Thank you.
yeah.
That really means a lot.
Yeah.
That really does. I said to the girls, I'm not going to get emotional, but that is really, that means a lot because I did put a lot of effort into it. I had a couple on the sly helping me with a few things, but I didn't give anything away beforehand. And, I really wanted to make it special because we did accomplish a lot this year. And, we have Janix and Susie that are modeling our new shirt, the new dry weave shirts right
great.
here.
Very nice.
And then we also made these up.
Oh, very
Um,
nice.
These are to be merchandised. So we did that too. One other thing I almost forgot, we had stickers made up. So I'd like to give each of you one of our Highland Beach Sea Turtle stickers if you want to put it on your car or your water bottle or your cooler. And you know, in the beginning, when I started this, I said, I can't go around and ask for money. There's just no way. But it's become easier because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it to support my team. I mean, this is just a small portion. We have 20 people on my permit, 4 more trainees this year, a husband and wife team that live in Regency Highland that I know they're going to be just as passionate as the rest of us. So we're just keeping it going. I have a young girl from FWC who's been walking with me, and this is the future. Because, you know, in all honesty, I'm not going to do this forever. I want to find someone I can turn it over to a few years down the road. And I have 2 young girls. One is a python hunter out in the Everglades, very passionate about the ecosystem, and she's going to be over here staying with her grandmother and walking the beach. And then we have Jasmine from FWC who is in the fisheries department, but she wants to get into the sea turtle side of it. So I'm helping, you know, her do that by her volunteering with me. So I want to thank you all very much. And, you know, if it's in your hearts to do an annual donation, we won't say no. But thank you all for the support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I have a quick question.
Sure.
How can we obtain those t-shirts? They are great.
Well,
The Highland
these
Beach.
t-shirts, oh, those white ones
With
that
the
they're
turtle.
wearing are their license, they're
Oh, that's
uniforms.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
that's what gives them the okay to be out there doing what they're doing. However, we have these and we can do them in white, we can do them in any color. I just wanted to incorporate the colors of the logo. And Highland Beach I think Highland Beach is very sophisticated. I didn't want like, you know, a animated turtle. I wanted, you know, something that looked kind of sophisticated for the town that it is. So,
Well,
but I do have a sticker for you and I will get you a shirt.
that's terrific. And again, thank you. Thank you to the team, all the participants and everyone in town that they may not be on the team, but they back you, you know,
Yes.
120%, and they're there. The commitment and the compassion is just outstanding, and it's representative of our town. So we also thank you.
And one other thing in zone 1, we're waiting for the first turtle nest to come in. We're gonna do that one in honor of David Matthewman, Diane and Bill Matthewman's son. We told them that we would, you know, mark it as a memorial, and when it's inventoried, we would have the whole family come out.
That's nice.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for everything you do. Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, to donate funds in support of the Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and providing for an effective date. And the amount of the donation is $2,500, which is the same amount that we gave the year prior. And our donation is not the only donation, as Ms. Ryan had mentioned. They sell shirts, they raise money from lots of other residents and things like that. So I guess I'll open it for public comments. Anybody want to make a public comment with respect to the resolution?
If I could point out a
Sure.
feature of
Go.
this resolution. So moving forward, we don't have to do a resolution. We'll just do it as part of budgeting. And it'll be a standing line item that can be included every year.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The resolution does say annually, so that's appropriate.
And Joanne, who do they make for all the people out there? Who do they make the checks out to? What should they put?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes,
yeah.
please.
So the official name is Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team, Inc. Here, I messaged.
Any discussion among commissioners?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, good.
We love our sea
Yeah.
turtles
Yes,
in this
we do.
town. And anything that we can do to make it easier to protect them, I'm all for.
I was struck with the comments about the growth and the survival and the health of our beaches and just the, the work of the environment working together. And I was wondering, I'd like to hear some comments too, about the population specifically to the south, near the rock, the Milani property that we referred to. Does that have, do you have any numbers on the population and the different varieties of the turtles that we have?
Okay, the Milani Park issue is an ongoing thing. So that little area of beach, which is roughly like maybe 400 square feet or so, we call it the Palm Beach Growth Area. It's tangled woods. It's very beautiful, I think. And we do get a lot of turtles there. We had, I think last year we had about, just in that area, and this is over the course of the whole summer, you have to remember we do this 8 months out of the year. I think we had about 40 crawls, but the nesting is usually about half of that. So we had probably 20 nests in that area, not all at the same time. They hatch, the turtles come back and forth. We have not had a leatherback nest in that area in a few years now. But all of that's considered zone 1. I think I've explained this to you guys before. We've broken into 5 zones because we walk and we carry supplies. So zone 1 actually starts with the Boca Highlands Club and ends at the Bellito access area. That's the first zone. And that's a high density area. Zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, for whatever reason, the turtles just love the south area of Highland Beach. The numbers go down just a little bit with the last 2 zones going north, but I think it's because Delray Beach is so close. We butt right up against Delray. So yeah, that area, I think last year we had almost 700 crawls in that whole area. And I did do a report, I think I sent it to Marshall, breaking down, it was a 3-year study, I think, that I gave all the data over the 3 years, nests, false crawls, and, total. So yeah, I know that everybody's opposed to that park. I'm not really, where there's less people, there's better, as far as I'm concerned, But I did speak to one of the top people at FWC when I went up to the permit holders meeting. And she said they're not opposed to parks, public parks. She asked me how busy it was. She was kind of really vague about it. There's a resident here that's been asking me to try to do this, get her on board, but they're just not going to do it, But she did say that they're not opposed to public parks, but they are opposed to like structures on the beach, boardwalks and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
But going back
Okay.
to the resolution, you support the resolution as
Yes.
well? Yep. Okay, so it looks like we all support, I am very much in favor of the resolution. I think it's a small contribution that has a really big impact. So if we're all in agreement. we
Yes,
can-
absolutely. Yes.
Oh, you want to make it?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
24 years. Is this the one?
Yeah.
Hi, Beverly Knight. I was a longtime resident here, but since moved not too far, just a few miles away, and I do the sea turtle still for 24 years. I just wanted to add that back in 2006, when we first had the big powwow, I called it, at Highland Beach for that whole park area, and everybody had a topic to speak about. And we all did our homework and did reports. One of the things that has not changed is that the parking lot across the street from that area, which is like 380 some odd feet wide on the beach, across the street, they wanted 100 cars. And if you figure, if you have like 4 people in a car going to the beach on a Saturday, that's 400 people. And as Joanne just said, there's like 400 square feet there on the beach. Okay, that means every person could have a square foot like this on the beach. They can't throw down their towels. If you have full capacity across the street, whether it's 2 people in a car or 4 people in a car, there's no room for people on that little piece of beach, that little 380 some odd wide. They have all of their other Palm Beach County parks that they could go to that are free and have lots of room. So there's no room there. And they will never be able to build any structures there because every time you dig down into the ground, there are artifacts and Indian burial ground in perpetuity. That's what it's going to be. And that goes back, if you get the video from the library from our 2006 meeting, it was actually very long, but we had the White Clouds come, and the Indians actually came and gave their ideas and speeches, and you could hear a pin drop. It was such an unbelievable meeting, and it's all on tape. And nothing has changed. Everybody did all these reports. It's not like starting over, like I think a lot of people are doing now, because we go all the way back. Been fighting this for a long time. Our 10 years was up in court, where we got it postponed for 10 years. But there's just nothing they can really do with that property because it is an Indian burial ground. They can't change that. So they can't dig down. DEP, you have to be able to dig down to build anything. You can't dig. So they said, well, they could put like a pathway across, but even if you were to lay anything down for a pathway, the rule was they had to have an archaeologist there the entire time that they were going to work any construction on a pathway. And then it was just through the roof for the costs, and it wasn't worth it. So I just had to get that off my chest.
I just want you to know that a couple of years back, we had, in essence, a sit-in at that beach. I think it was a Saturday morning. And you can't get 100 people on that beach at high tide.
No,
Never
no.
mind, 3 or 4 per car. You couldn't possibly even get the 100, and people were standing up. People don't stand up at
It
the
makes
beach.
no sense.
So it really is a very small beach. And at high tide, you don't see the rock.
No, they just have to
And
make it a
that rock is
memorial.
very dangerous.
They should
It-
just make it a memorial to the Indians that used to live there because they are now extinct. Those Indians, those,
In your opinion,
Tequesta.
how would that affect the nesting?
oh my gosh, are you kidding? We have a tough time now keeping people away from our nests. We have to put a huge square around a leatherback nest just to keep people from putting their chairs there and laying all over. Their kids are digging the sand. It's very tough. One year we actually down there by that area, we had some young kids, college kids, I guess. I don't know if you guys remember this. They took all our sticks out and they had a bonfire. All our nests. They just pulled them all out, had a bonfire on the beach. We had to try to recreate where they were. But, nobody was there to police it. It's dark at night and there's really nobody around that area. So yeah, it's terrible. We need to keep peace there. That little part, they should never do anything with that piece. It's the only piece, if you look on the whole, if you look at Florida all the way down, it's one of the only pieces that still has its integrity, it's called, because it was never built on. There was one house on the north end a long time ago that was torn down. You can still see like a footprint of it there, and that's it. The rest had never been built on. It's all natural. It's, they call it that it has its integrity, which means it's just the way it was a long time ago. It was never touched.
Do you find that the people who live here are more respective of the turtle nests, that they mostly stay away from them, the people who actually live here?
I think the ones that are educated are, we have a turnover, a lot of turnover of people. I mean, I'm a real estate broker here, so as soon as we get somebody, you know, just the way we want them, they love the turtles, they turn their lights out, then they sell their house, and a new person comes in and it starts all over again. They turn on every light. We have a problem with the nest going towards their homes. You know, they have to be educated and understand, and then they have this huge respect for the turtles after they see the turtles and experience them. Otherwise, if they don't see them, they don't know anything about them. It's just an ignorance. They don't know until they learn. So yeah, as soon as they know something about the turtles, they have a lot of respect for them.
But certainly people who come from far away aren't going to know
Yeah,
anything.
Just fascinated. Well, thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank
We could
you.
have a motion about the resolution.
Move that we adopt resolution number 2024-012.
Second that,
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Congratulations. Congratulations. Next up, we have the presentation of the 2023 Beach Restoration Feasibility Study.
Okay, so right on cue with the turtle nest is the update that we've been working on, and Mr. Mann, our coastal engineer, has concluded the update, if you will, to the 2013 beach erosion study that had I know many of you had looked at. You authorized staff to move forward, secure Mr. Mann's services, and kind of give us an update of the condition and health. And then, as you'll see, a unique element to it is property by property, identify areas for improvement on the dune. So homeowners can know what activities to take. I know the Natural Resource Advisory Board's been driving this a lot too, pushing for this work to be completed. So the work has been completed. You got the great, huge study, and Mr. Mann is going to walk us through his findings and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Douglas Mann, I work with Aptum Environmental and Infrastructure in next door neighbor in Boca Raton. If you can give me my next slide. Appreciate the opportunity here today. Oh, just give me back up one. Where we're going to go over I've got a little bit of an executive summary slide that kind of covers everything, and then we'll get into some more detail dealing with some of the shoreline processes, both kind of regional, town-wide things that are going on, as well as some of the local coastal processes that you might see in certain specific areas within the town. One of the aspects of the study this past year was to try to incorporate some resiliency and sustainability concepts and how that intermingles with having a healthy beach. And we'll talk about that briefly. I'll talk about some of the alternatives that we considered as part of this overall study. We'll talk about the funding challenges that the town would face if they wish to move forward with any of this. And then lastly, I'll bring a couple recommendations. Next slide. Long term, the town has been fortunate being immediately downdrift to the city of Delray Beach. The city of Delray has a long-term beach nourishment project, as you're aware of, and that sand, as it erodes, works its way south. Some of the sand is on the dry beach, some of the sand is in the submerged portion of the beach profile, but that's all beneficial to the town. This has resulted in very small, mild, long-term movement and shoreline advancement, giving you a slightly wider beach than you did historically. And that's a good thing. That's the good news. The bad news is today is that you're still subject to episodic impacts from storms. You're still vulnerable to storms. And we can see that in primarily as you walk out there at the toe of the dune. We've got some dune scarps, we've got some losses of vegetation. As the manager said, The town asked us to go out and look at each and every property, one by one. In the report, there's one photograph and a couple of comments for each individual property. So if anybody's interested in exactly what we saw or how their property compares to properties north of them or south of them, they can take a look at that. But for the most part, most of the toes of the dune are scarped off. Some of the vegetation's been lost, which is just an indication of the storm history that you have been experiencing. Long-term sea level rise is occurring. We can see that in the tidal gauges around the state. Eventually, this is all going to catch up with us in terms of losses of beach width. You know, as I said before, the town's been experiencing advancement of the beach width, albeit small. We haven't seen the losses due to sea level rise yet occur, but I think the bigger potential and where we'll see it is within storm impacts. The same size storm, you know, from 20 years ago could occur today, but it's occurring on a slightly higher water level and has the potential for slightly increased impacts. There are a couple of alternatives. You can attempt to nourish the entire beach from the dry beach, from the edge of the dunes out all the way into the water. That's got some challenges with it. And we'll talk about that later. You can attempt to nourish just the dry beach portion of the berm. That is the horizontal portion of the beach that most people like to sit on. Is a little low in my estimation from the observations we made. It's a little lower than it is in Delray. Or you can just pursue some effort to restore the dune toe scarps and to try to nourish them. And that can be done both on a townwide basis or just an individual property basis, if an owner was inclined to do so. All this talk of construction forces the town to recognize that there's very little construction access to the beach itself. Having to go through private property is going to be make any kind of construction difficult. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means it's going to be hard. It's going to require some cooperation. And we could eventually get into those details if we needed to. And then lastly, from my summary here, you have a beautiful private beach, which is nice if you live there, own there, have access to it. But you won't be getting federal, state, or county money to support restoration efforts as a result. All those funds are all tied to funding beaches that are open to the public. And we can go on to the next slide here. Let me see if I can get this careful. To try not to focus too much on the broad numbers. The DEP monitors the beach with these range monuments. R191's up there right near the Delray line. Sorry, I'm wrong project. And then R204 is just south of Yamata Rock. People have been monitoring the beaches, measuring the widths, measuring the heights of the beaches for years. We have this data focus in on the last column. This is from January 1975 all the way to August 2023 when we went out there. And if you do a comparison of how wide the beach is, you can see that on an average annual basis, you're gaining 3 or 4 feet at the Delray line kind of area, and that slowly decreases in size down at least halfway through town. You're still gaining small quantities of sand long term. And then the southern part of the town kind of oscillates, fluctuates back and forth between a little gain and a little loss. But overall, the entire town has been gaining 1.2 feet of shoreline per year over the long term. That's the good news. As I mentioned, we have some issues with storms coming in and impacting the dunes. I selected kind of 3 pictures kind of at random. One's kind of at the north end of town. One's kind of toward the middle. And then I picked one from Ocean Place Estates. They're kind of like a random selection because they all kind of look the same in my mind. They're all, you can see where the storms have come in, they've washed out the face of the dune. The vegetation has died back accordingly or washed out. This is pretty typical. This is all a result of wave runoff combined with high tides, combined with king tides. We'll get them once a month, once every couple months, more in the fall. And even some of the minor storm surges that roll through. So that's kind of a local process, but it happens kind of townwide. Next slide. Then we have a couple of interesting features in the town's beaches. You have nearshore hard bottom or rock or reefs, as people who might refer to them in the technical literature. They refer to it as hard bottom because it can be the basis of some biological ecosystem there. In some cases, you have rock that holds sand on the updrift side, and then it kind of erodes on the downdrift side. This is maybe more of a cyclical thing. It will hold sand for a while until the storm comes, and then the sand gets released. But you do have a pretty dramatic change of beach width very locally as a result of these rocks. Again, I picked up Yamata rock. This one's functions not only like a groin, but it also works kind of like a breakwater in the sense that it reduces wave energy immediately in the lee or the landward section. You can get a little wider section of beach here, and then you still have some downdrift effects into the southern part of the town and in Boca Raton as a result. So, but this is really anchoring your beach. This is a great piece of rock to have in the right place to have. It really does hold the south end together really well. So that's good news there. Next slide. I guess I want to talk a little bit more about storms that you may have. And you can see the results of these storms in the rack lines. That's the dead vegetation lines that form along the beach. This is where the waves rush up during the storm and deposit some of the vegetation that usually forms rather linear lines up and down the beach. But as you can see, that you can have some smaller storms and then bigger storms, and then you have this bigger line that's up against the toe of the dune. And that was what was kind of concerning me, is that you're having a storm a year, maybe once or twice a year, where you're pushing a lot of vegetation right to the toe of the dune. And this is causing the berm, that is this flat section of the beach in here, to be somewhat deflated because you're getting waves rushing back and forth across this portion. It's not very deep, but it's still moving the sand around and doesn't allow the beach to build up very well when that's occurring. And then you have impacts to the dune. So. It's common these days when I come and talk to public groups that we talk about sea level rise. This is this slide is from the Southeast Florida Compact on Climate Change. That's a multi-government group that have gotten together in Southeast Florida, Palm Beach through Monroe County. They've all did their study kind of collectively. I've heard that Martin County has kind of signed off on kind of the conclusions, at least. They're not, I don't think they're part of the compact, but they like the results. You have some relative sea level rise measured here in inches, I believe. This is inches, time over on the axis starting in 1990. This is what the sea level rise gauge in Key West, Florida looks like. Everybody uses the Key West gauge because it's been around the longest and is reliable. Some of the more local gauges haven't been around very long, so NOAA is still reluctant to generate trends. And these are scenarios of what sea level rise might do in the future. And we could spend a whole hour lecturing as to which one's right and which one's wrong. And I don't want to get too focused in on there. The compact itself tends to suggest that you should do any planning effort somewhere in between between the bottom two curves. They think that's usually reasonably good. But your sea level rise is rising. It's projected to rise, and you need to have a forward thinking that life today is going to be, or life tomorrow is going to be different than it is today. When you start looking at, these are decades here on the bottom. So, if you move in, if you're 20 years old here, yeah, you might have to worry about the way it is up here, but if you're my age, I don't think I have to worry about 2060 anymore. So what we want is beaches that are sustainable. We want the beach to be there. We want the beach to be there to protect us. We want the beach there to have a place to go recreate on. We want a place for the turtles to go nest in. You can pick your favorite reason, but we all love our beaches. And so we're going to have to face the reality of a rising sea level in years to come.
I have a quick question. So, if you go back to the
Go back.
previous slide. So we are 2024.
Yeah.
How did the projections compare? Like, do you have an update for this?
This is the last time I think they published the data.
Okay,
um,
when do they publish it? Because I mean,
I
we can kind of know how the predictions compared to actuals, right? For this other decade.
I've done a similar exercise for other communities where I've actually gone and grabbed the data from NOAA and plotted it myself. If you take this NOAA intermediate high curve and you start around 1990, and then you extrapolate that, the NOAA intermediate high is reasonably good. It may be a little bit on the high side, but that's a fairly decent indicator. That's one scenario that seems to be a reasonable one to consider.
So you think if you, I mean, I imagine the 2020 measurement exists, right? And the
Oh, yeah.
2024.
Mhm.
So if you were to plot those 20, 21, 22.
Can't get to 24, but we can get to 23.
Okay, 23. You think it's going to be on the intermediate high line? Like, yeah. You have, right?
What, yes.
You know, where it is? Is it
At this point, these curves are so close together that statistically, you probably don't have much of a difference.
how, these
But-
estimates are comparing to the actuals now that we have some of these.
NOAA publishes what they call a mean trend, which for Key West starts all the way back in like 1900. And their mean trend is a linear line. And that one clearly, which worked really well till about 2000. And then after 2000, it doesn't work well at all. So we know that these long linear trends, which is pretty much close to this IPC median line, is probably on the low side. Which high side we're going to be on, which upper curve we're going to be on, it's not clear. That, every year these numbers are going up and sometimes they come down. They fluctuate on a monthly basis. I mean, when you grab the data, you're actually grabbing monthly averages. And there's fluctuations every month. But the trend is upward, the trend is accelerating.
So that's posted online. Someone could go look up the NOAA intermediate high, like, or the actual observed. Or I guess you're saying the reason you do a 5-year average is I guess it fluctuates by year.
Well, you want to plot this, you can plot every month, and I've done this before. You don't want to look at any one month and you don't want to look at
Right.
any one year. You
Right.
want to look at the trends and where they're headed.
Right.
If you start looking at, if we were looking at just this 1990 to 2000 trend, it's rising. It's rising at a fairly linear rate. When I get to 2010, I don't know what happened in 2010. The data goes up and it's accelerating. And then I always pick on the year 2010 as something changed. I don't know what changed, something changed. And from 2010 to 2020, we get not only a rise, but we get a faster rise than the previous decade. And you can download the monthly data that's publicly available.
then-
You can get that right from the NOAA website. You had to manipulate it to be able to plot it kind of like this. And then had to know how to put the other curves on top of it, but it is possible. So
Okay, I was just curious how
Sure.
the actuals came up compared to the predicted.
I mean, you could get a year in here that might hit this NOAA high curve.
Because
But
it
that-
fluctuates. It does
Because there's a lot of,
fluctuate.
there's enough fluctuation here. I mean,
Okay.
we're only measuring inches over here, so we're
Mhm.
talking really small quantities averaged out over a whole year at this point, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next slide. How do we live and make resilient, and sustainable beaches? The berms that we have out on your beach and the dunes that you have, they're going to experience more storm effects, leading to reduced protection to upland properties. I think that's the biggest concern. We'll have other effects depending on your perspective on how much square footage you need to recreate on the beach and how many square feet you need to support successful sea turtle nesting. I'll say the climatic changes, I said originally climatic changes are not discernible or measurable. Maybe that's from the coastal beaches data set. I mean, I can't go out there and go, oh, I measured the beach today and this is different than it was 20 years ago. And the sole reason is because climate has changed. No, we're not there yet, but at the same time, I reference, this is the National Climate Assessment Report. This is a federal government document. I think they've got 5 versions of it out now. If somebody wants to know about climate change and what NOAA can see in their data sets, which is a lot of atmospheric data and what temperature data and those kinds of things, that's kind of a objective source of data that they're able to measure certain things at this point. You're probably looking at needing some enhancement to the beach berm or the whole entire beach profile. That'll probably be likely over the long term. And I'll give you a recommendation now is taking no action is probably not going to be a sustainable means of maintaining beaches in the way you want them to be. Next slide. We looked at a couple of alternatives. We looked at beach nourishment in terms of nourishing the entire beach profile. That is nourishing all the way from the dunes into the dry beach, into the nearshore zone out to 25 feet of water. That type of a project can only be designed at a town-wide length. You can't just build this on one property and expect it to last more than a month. You have challenges. The hard bottoms that we showed in previous pictures, those are protected by the state. And because they are an environmental resource, so you'd have to design around them. Again, we talked about construction access briefly. Being able to get heavy construction equipment onto the beach is going to be difficult. You might need help from your neighbors, neighboring communities to give you some better access, and it will be very expensive. I gave you an option of just nourishing the dry beach. Let's say you could put together a project, conceive of a project that might be a mile length. That might be the minimum you want to attempt, but maybe there's a need in 1 mile of the town and versus the entire town. That's probably the minimum length that you would need. Again, you'd have challenges in construction access, some funding, and then the durability. You're only nourishing the dry beach. We were only talking about putting, 5 or 8 cubic yards of sand on each linear foot of beach. The forest storm will come in and wash a good chunk of that sand away, and people will start pointing some fingers. And I'm just saying, there's some durability issues with that. It'd be easier to permit. It costs a lot less money. You might build it a different way. You might use truck hauled sand as opposed to going offshore with a dredge. So there are pros and cons with all these alternatives. I talked about making an attempt to repair the toe of the dunes, adding a very small quantity of sand, a yard, 2 yards, somewhere in that range per linear foot of beach. This could be done on a single property basis. Be better, like if on some of your condo properties are a little longer, they would be a little easier and more feasible to undertake such action. Still dealing with construction access, durability, but the price drops dramatically. You're only putting a small quantity of sand in, you're going to put some vegetation on it, and then you're going to drive away. And this type of an action can be done to try to offset the effects of sea level rise, try to give you a little bit more storm protection. And it'll look like you're actually doing something And at a fairly nominal cost, something that single property owners could undertake if they so chose. It'd be better if it was a bigger, larger scale project with multiple owners or, condominium sized properties, et cetera. And then I said, the last alternative, kind of, in terms of, was no action, didn't really recommend it. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't cost you anything in the short term. It might cost you in terms of long-term impacts, that need to be factored into decision-making when that occurs, whether it's on a single property basis or a town-wide basis. We looked at some coastal structures. We talked about them in the report. The town's beach is really not set up. There's not a distinct need for adding structures like groins. Some people call them jetties, if you're from up north, or putting in breakwaters. Breakwaters get to be very expensive, hard to permit. And wasn't sure that your beaches would get that much better with that kind of investment. So didn't want to really go there. Funding, we touched on this before. You have a nice, beautiful private beach, enjoy it. Take care of it. You get to take care of it yourself. There's no public benefits. Therefore the Corps of Engineers, the state of Florida and the Palm Beach County are not going to cost share in your efforts. There are, if the town wished to pursue a project and whatever that project would be, there will obviously be time to plan the project, and part of that planning would be determining how to fund it. That would require the town finance director to get involved. And there are multiple ways of funding these types of projects. There's probably an example of each. I listed out four different ways there that an individual town could go ahead and do things. There's probably examples of each one of these examples somewhere in the state of Florida. Somebody's done this. So it's not like you're having to create new ground here. I understood that the first time the town of Jupiter Island built their project back in the 1970s, they literally went up and down to the wealthy residents of Jupiter Island, and they just simply collected checks. I mean, I don't even think there was an assessment of any sort. I think it was just a understanding between the members, but that's a different community with a different situation. That's not you guys here. So, but I mean, there have been people who've done private donations. We do a lot of work over on Captiva Island, which is more of an erosion prevention district. They self-assess themselves. They do get some benefits from the state for a couple of their public beaches, but for the most part, that's a fairly private project as well. So why don't you move on? We'll get to recommendations. Short term recommendations are to consider some dune tow repair or maybe do a dry beach nourishment. If you're a single property owner and you don't like the way the things look, the dune tow repairs can be a conceivable option for individual owners. It can be an option for groups of owners, condos, that can be put together. I think this can keep pace with sea level rise and the effects thereof. It's not a cure-all, but it's a management of the beach, this approach. Longer term, I think you're going to get into beach nourishment of either just the dry beach or the whole beach profile. You'll be able to keep pace with sea level rise, because you're putting enough sand in there. This will take years to design, years to permit. This is a long-term investment, a long-term commitment. You may or may not have the support to do it at the present time. But I think you're going to wind up down that road at some point in the future. And I'll get to your question. And lastly, monitor the beach and dune system. We went out and surveyed your beaches, so we know where they're kind of at as of August of last year. Sometimes the county comes through and does some surveys. Boca Raton and Delray kind of survey into the limits of your town a little bit. Maybe every couple of years or whatever, it might be worthwhile, collaborating with your neighbors and trying to get the whole thing done at once. Keep an eye on that. Stay abreast of trends in sea level rise and what's going on there. The Southeast Florida Compact seems to be around. It's a group of county governments who are participating. That they're going to be around. They're going to be monitoring this long term. just stay in touch with, that information. That'll be your best source of information. And that data will probably be updated every couple of years by, the technical committee of that compact. So, I think the next one's question, so we can go there. Yeah.
Just a quick question. What do you define as long-term? Like what is that time horizon that you're?
I'll say, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. One approach to beach management is to monitor and then adapt. You'll see when you're getting into trouble. You'll see the erosion creep up. Unfortunately, it'll probably creep up during one storm, and then there's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. That's typical of communities all over the state of Florida. We have bad storm, well, the phone will start ringing. That's just the nature of dealing with episodic storms. Some of it's part of a long-term program, long-term process. On the other hand, you're downdrift to Delray, so you get in this little feet of sand. So things aren't the worst in the world,
Because you had that one chart that had it broken up in the decades, and there was one decade there in the middle where there was a lot of loss.
Yes.
But then, I don't know, did Delray do a nourishment or something? I don't know if that's when Delray did the nourishment, and then it was like a.
There was a column in that data set that talked about what happened in 2004. And if we go back to 2004, 2005 even, we had back-to-back years of very high hurricane and tropical storm activity, not just statewide, but also locally. And many of the beaches suffered from impacts from storms, and your beaches suffered, and then they recovered. They recovered naturally as the sand came back onshore. Sometimes the sand just shifts offshore and then works its way back onto the beach.
Okay.
Sometimes you're benefiting from Delray. Big activities will cause more sand to leave Delray and then come back here. So that was just an kind of, at this point, it's evidence that you are susceptible, that you're not just living on this long-term positive trend. There's a lot of noise in there with hurricanes and tropical storms passing by and a northeaster. I was working up in the north end of the county here recently, and we had in December, we had 3 days of really heavy winds. It was windy in Boca. I didn't really realize it until the phone rang a couple weeks later, and some people I knew called me and they're like, "Doug, we need some help. The beach is gone." So they got hit much worse up in the north end of the county, but even northeaster events that have no names and people will forget about them in 6 months can occur and cause damage. And, you need to factor that into your planning as well. Other questions?
Are there exceptions to the limitation on obtaining funding from outside government resources? Are there any exceptions with regard to hurricanes or any other natural events?
I'll say that the state legislature last year, in response to Hurricane Ian and then Idalia and Tropical Storm Nicole, between the second two, between Hurricane Ian and Tropical Storm Nicole, some of them were more impacted to the west coast of Florida. Some of them were more impacted to the east coast of Florida. The legislature granted money to be released via DEP, who handles the money for the beaches, to anybody who needed help. And they put some specific criteria on that money. I was working at the time with a community over the West Coast, it's a large homeowners association. They have like 3,500 residential units in it. And they happen to own about 1,500 feet of beach on the West Coast. It's all private, according to the definitions that the state uses. We went, and since the legislature, I think it was Senate Bill 2, granted all this money, and they didn't put a lot of conditions on it. I said, hey, maybe you finally will get some money if you apply. So we applied. They didn't get any money. They said the money, money's got to be handed down to the counties. Okay, well, they went over and talked to the county. County's like, well, we got a lot of needs here in this county. And so this large homeowners association eventually wound up at the bottom of the list. And there was no money left over. So there are exceptions. The exceptions are hard. The exceptions are restrictive. That doesn't mean the answer is categorically no, because now we have evidence that the state has given money on a kind of a broader base to help facilitate recovery. In some cases, it was recovery of local economies. Beaches drive tourism, and tourism drives our economies. And so they knew that if they could get the beaches back in shape and the hotels open, the tourists would come and generate tax revenue for everybody. So it has been done, but it's very restrictive on private beaches. It's not like I talked to the regulators, and they would just sit there and smile at me going, you can apply.
So the supplemental stuff, is that include the beach, during bringing in sand from the ocean? As well as planting the various, doing other things, vegetation around the property?
Most of that cost is just going offshore and dredging, and the cost of bringing a dredge in and doing the project one time.
So if we did not bring in sand, and, by some mode of authority, perhaps municipal ordinance, regulation, there was a mandatory planting with new and construction. How beneficial would that be to the retention fund? That's without bringing in sand.
Without bringing in, just planting.
Like dune restoration, is that what you're saying? Like really, everyone gets really serious about dune restoration, doesn't it?
Planting.
If you're gonna do the plantings are good overall. They're good to control wind-blown sand. It's better than having no plantings at all. You're not going to get a lot of erosional protection you're not going to reduce the rate of erosion that may go on. The reduction in storm response is there. It's not, if I measure it, it's not going to be a very big number. It might be there. I mean, sea oats are wonderful plants, and they're not only pretty, they're functional, but if I measure them at a scientific or an engineering level, or, we saved 1/3 of the dune, over not having any plants on it. But I mean, it's a couple of yards of sand. We're not talking tens of yards at this point. So.
So we bring in certain amount. We do a certain amount. Hold on. We don't have it. What's the-
Right.
Can we go back to that slide where you show the annualized shoreline change summary
Sure.
by year?
Third, fourth slide, something like that. Yeah, number 4. There we go.
So the bottom right-hand corner of
Mm.
this slide says the overall average is an increase of
1.2
1.2 feet
feet per year,
per year.
averaged out over 48 years.
Okay. So I guess, can you explain again, why is it possibly in 5 years we would have to replenish our beaches?
I think it's a matter of the fact that your berm elevation is low. We looked at this, and the berm in Highland Beach is about 1 foot lower than the artificially maintained berm in Delray. When you have a storm, the waves rush all the way to the dune and will eat up the dune. If it does the same thing in Delray on the same storm, the water may only not even get to the dune. Has allowed Delray's beaches to get very wide and the wind to blow up into the dunes. The dunes have gotten very big there. I think I fear more than anything else that your high tides, king tides, and then storm surges, whether we agree or disagree as to whether we're having more hurricanes or more severe hurricanes, pose a threat to your property. You don't have a lot of resilience. While the beach width has gotten a little wider, which is what this data is showing, it doesn't say that the beach has gotten any taller, and isn't holding any more sand. I think that's probably,
So is there a slide on height?
no, I didn't
No, there's
show you
nothing
that
on height. It's
today.
important. The height isn't important, but
Yeah,
isn't
it's important. It's the volume of sand between the dune and the shoreline. That's always important. Can you give me like the next slide, maybe? Yeah, if we look at, look at where the rack lines are. This is the north end of town. The rack line's right at the toe of the dune. It's kind of somewhere in the middle of town. We got multiple rack lines in here showing that waves are getting to this location, or even almost toward the dune. Even Ocean Place Estates, we've got a couple of them getting close to the dune. So you're seeing actions that are going on every year already. And so that, and we haven't had a direct hit from a hurricane or a tropical storm in years. We've had lots of storms have come by. We haven't had a really bad storm in maybe a decade or so. And that's kind of, you're going to see the episodic storms are what's going to drive action or no action. Whether you plan for a project and build a project are two different stories sometimes. We've had clients who plan for things and then have never built it because they didn't think they were ready to pull the trigger on it. But they wanted to be down the road if they needed something. They wanted to have a plan in place. But I look at this, particularly the north end of town, that this beach profile, you have the steep dune face, and then you have a profile that's really flat, but I thought this was awfully low compared to, I was a little surprised how low it was relative to Delray. And I was like, geez, we're feeding all this sand into Highland Beach, but we're seeing it in the shoreline data, but we're not seeing it in the height data. The beach literally drops like a foot in the first 500 or 1,000 feet as you walk south out of Delray. And I was like, huh, nature doesn't want to support that elevation without means. So that's my concern. I mean, we got evidence that you're getting waves to places where you don't want to. You want the dune to be a last ditch resort, your last ditch protection to your property is your dune, and you're seeing small incremental impacts already. So
Can you build a seawall on the beach? And if you could, would it help?
there are rules in the state Florida Administrative Code that allows seawalls to be built. They're highly restrictive as to whether you're eligible to get a seawall or whether you are whether there's justification. It all deals with how close your habitable structure is to the beach and how threatened it is. And also it deals with whether that habitable structure was designed with a foundation system that's intended to resist extreme storm events. And I know a lot of a lot of the properties in town here these are redeveloped properties over the last 20 or 25 years. Many of them were done under a permit from the state, which means they've got a foundation that was in theory designed to withstand the effects of a 100-year storm event. Is what the permit's based off of. So those structures wouldn't be eligible for a seawall. Though we are seeing rumors that the state may relax that rule in some cases. But I'll say that's just talk at this point. I haven't seen them actually do it for any of my clients yet, but we've got applications in now for one of them. And we're gonna see how willing they are to relax some of the eligibility rules for seawalls.
Is one of the options to build a restrictive reserve each year to build up a fund if and when it's needed for a beach renourishment project?
I didn't talk about that in my report. There are, as I said, there were multiple different ways of funding these projects. I don't think there are too many communities out there that are pre-funding a reserve, shall we say, for beach preservation efforts. There are communities, principally at the county level, that dedicate funding to beach preservation. Most of the counties in the state that are on the coast have take some of their tourist development council dollars and their bed tax dollars, and if they get 5 cents or 6 cents of bed tax, they may dedicate 1 penny or 2 pennies to beach preservation on a countywide basis, wherever they think it's best applied, wherever they think it's best utilized. I don't think but that's usually at the county level. That's not necessarily at a municipal level.
I see a lot of the places, a lot of the condos needs dune toe nourishment. And I see our condo needs that. Is that only sand is only the cure for that? Bringing in sand for the.
The best way to accomplish that is by hauling sand in, placing it in front of in front, and then vegetating it to keep the wind from blowing it away.
Okay. But you say vegetation will help like 1/3 or something like that?
Yeah, it'll reduce some of the erosion. If the waves get to the dune, having vegetation it's beneficial.
Yeah, it seems like, part of this too was to identify needs by property, which you did, so that we can share it with the property owners and they can take specific action. And it seems like the general recommendation is add, what is it, the 2 cubic yards per foot? Is that?
Yep.
How it is?
Mhm.
Of sand, and then rejuvenate or revegetate the dune toe. That's generally the consistent feedback throughout.
Right. One of I think I was a little surprised when we went out and did this property by property observation of the beach and the dunes, that I knew that there were properties that were going to need some dune help. What I didn't realize is that nearly every property had some spot on it that needed some dune restoration effort on it, and that it was a town-wide basis. I think that was surprising to me, that you can find it anywhere in town. But it's that can be done at a scalable level, whether you own 100 feet or whether you own 500 feet or whether you want to do it on a townwide basis. That's people can take action if the
Yes,
town, if people, individual owners can take action if the town doesn't want to.
Right,
And,
right.
and
right,
that's up to the board here.
yeah. And then the other recommendation I see generally is to remove the exotics and the sea grapes.
There are, now we're getting, now we're getting into the weeds. But I noticed first of all, I'm not a horticulturist, I'm an engineer, but I've had to learn a lot of beach horticulture. First, you have sea grapes that are growing on your beach, on your dune face. If you look at good community structures, sea grapes are there, they're native. They were intended to grow on the backside of it. And if you ever see the grapes after you have a really bad northeaster, when you have all that salt blowing in the air for days after days after days, and suddenly you go out and look at the pretty sea grapes and they're all brown because they all got burned by the salt. They don't tolerate the salt that well. So if you see sea grapes on the front side of the dune, they were probably on the back side of the dune originally. Sea grapes in Palm Beach County grow like weeds in my estimation. They grow very well, they grow very fast, and it's all got to do with the climate. We get lots of rain, we get lots of sunshine, and we don't have any freezes. Historically, Palm Beach County might get a freeze every 10 years if you went back 100 years. That would keep some of these plants, shrub size, not tree size. We can get sea grape trees in this county. I can go to the West Coast and I'll see sea grapes over there and they're this tall and they're struggling. And I just go, geez, I don't have any problem with that at home. So I would caution people from planting sea grapes on the dune faces. That's not where they're intended to be. There are plenty of other plant species that grow very well on the dune faces that can be swapped in. And so that the other thing is if the dune scarps out, sea grapes kind of fall down. And then they hide the actual where the dune is. You just see this big lush green sea grapes and didn't realize that you lost 5 feet of sand back there and you can't even see it. There's another plant out there I call it beach knopka. It's got a couple different spellings. But it's originally from Hawaii. It got imported at some point in time. It grows like a weed and it'll outcompete adjacent native plants. It just grows and spreads year by year. And if you ever get a permit from the state of Florida, buried in the fine print on the back page, something says you will remove all your beach knopka. Because it just outcompetes other native plants and doesn't really help the dune system. So we saw that in a couple of spots in town. That's not a pervasive problem here. It's more of an isolated on some properties. There's some growing.
Well, it's pretty exciting to see 4307 didn't need any action. I know they spent a lot of time and imagine money rebuilding their dune, and
Yep.
that was really great to see no action. I think the report card on some of the other properties shows some action is needed. So I guess it's kind of like, what do we do with these results that we have now?
We share them
Yes, we share them.
and encourage
Encourage,
the
right.
actions to be taken.
Right, right. And I don't know, maybe included as part of our strategic
Mhm.
priorities if the
From
town.
completing the study now to communicating and engaging the public to take action. Now it's a call
Right.
to action. I know that the Natural Resource Board wanted to start then,
Right,
maybe send it to the homeowners. If they're
Right.
not paying attention, just send it to them. Say, here's the recommendation. You should look at these things and then reference the study and start working to get them educated, like we said, at the same time about the sea turtles, educate them about maintaining their beaches and stuff.
any public comments about this study? Oh, come on up.
Rick Greenwald, Bellito. I appreciate that the commission, Marshall arranged to have this study performed because I think it's good to get the information. Having lived here now for 26 years, I find this report extremely reassuring because basically it tells us that our beaches are in as good a shape as they've been over 26 years. That areas of town, the beaches are actually broader than they were before. Other areas roughly the same, but certainly no significant decline. Learning more about the dunes. But overall, I think it's a very reassuring report and that there's nothing, we can all agree, I think, emergent going on. Doesn't mean there shouldn't be some planning, but certainly I didn't see anything that suggests that the town needs to be heavily involved in this as a high priority item at this point. I think it serves best as an educational item. I think educating people in town. I know that process has already started about dune management, about plannings, possibly about individual homeowners or condominiums renourishing the toes of the dunes. I think is, you know, all reasonable, but based on what I've seen, I don't see any particular reason for a, you know, a massive townwide improvement project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation and thank you for the study. It's very helpful.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Moving along, any general public comments? Seeing none, we have no ordinances, consent agenda. Is there any discussion about the consent agenda? If not, we could have a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Unfinished business. Resolution number 2024-008, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, dedicating the Highland Beach, Florida Rescue Department Station number 120 in honor of former Mayor Douglas Hillman. We had discussion of this last time. I think we were ready to approve the resolution. We just made some minor changes, right?
Tweaks to say dedicated in honor of instead of being named after. It's just some semantics, if you will, a little bit of changes. With the follow-up on that, I have placed a design order with a sculptor, bronze sculpting company to start putting something together that would go into the library. It's called like a BAS relief sculpture plaque, where hopefully they can, you know, 3D sculpting of the mayor's face at the bottom, along with kind of a summary of the proclamation here that will be read on there with his name. So
What's the difference between in honor of and naming?
I thought I was just taking your guys' lead. If you want to go something else, you know, you tell me. I thought there was some concern saying calling it the Doug Hillman Fire Station or Memorial Fire Station. So then we're just going to, in his honor, dedicate this little bit that, you know, counselor, you know, you've been there. So Scrivener.
I think that there will be a lot of unhappy people about that, as opposed to naming it.
It's up to the commission. You guys tell me. I'm more than glad to do that. I'm working on the piece to permanently recognize it. How do we want to call it and recognize it? You let me know and I'll be more than glad to tweak it to meet the commission's desire.
So Evelyn, you want it to be naming it or?
That's what I thought was going to happen, and that's what quite a few other people thought was going to happen.
So the discussion at the last meeting, I thought like we didn't want to have the name across the front
No,
or
I
whatever.
don't think that was ever really suggested. what my vision, and it could be different than other people's, was that there is for example, there's a plaque on the outside of the library, and have a plaque similar to that on the outside of the building, like near the entrance door into the lobby area. And then have his picture and a little history inside the lobby.
And that to you is naming the building after Mayor Hillman, not in honor of.
Yes.
What,
I'm not,
if the bronze, it's pretty, it's gonna be big. My concern is putting it outside right on the front from the sea. It's gonna get beat by the salt. So I was gonna take it inside, just inside the doors and like the entryway. You'll know
Does
it's
this
the,
one on the library get beat up?
no, because it's a little bit further tucked away. The one in the front of our building at Town Hall is pretty rough. We do have a dedication plaque to the, like a typical building construction. We can put it inside or out. I just thought inside, so you walk, I mean, we could put a little naming plate above it, but like when you go in, the cost of the bronze structure or plaque or whatever, you know, it's hard to, I'm learning about the bronzing of stuff, would be inside. So when you come in, any resident that goes into the fire station, there will be, you know, we can put his name on the wall, and then there's a big dedication plaque inside. So it's kind of like a special showcase area for every resident in the future and guest that comes into the fire station will recognize it.
I'm not sure how big I would make that plaque. I mean,
It's 16 by 26. It's not ginormous, but I mean, it's, you know, 26, 16. It's a good size. Like you'll be able to read the letters and the font and you'll know what it says.
but Evelyn, but is it even the plaque? I mean, I hear what you're saying. Your concern is the words that we're using, naming the building versus in honor of. I mean, I think we can get to the details of the actual whatever, but
because to be fair, this fire station would never have been built without Doug Hill. Because he was the one who, I mean, we all had issues with how much money we were paying Del Rey. But he was the one who had the insight to be able to bring in a consultant and tell us, yes, you can do this. The rest of us would just say, gee, this is too much money. And then what do you do about it? Well, you can't just walk away from a contract and not have anything in place to take over. And he had the vision to actually go in and do something.
we all agree with that. Clearly, we all agree. I guess I don't, honor of or naming the building after. I don't know what the difference is, to be honest. So I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. I mean, I could go either way, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't really know what the difference is.
You tell me.
Yeah, yeah.
I
mean,
can write it. I can write it too. I can write it either way.
Because I think we're all agreeing.
I think the
on-
effect is the same. We're all trying to get to the same effect.
The effect is the same.
I thought there was a little bit of concern or softening or how we were calling it the Doug Hillman Fire Station 120 or Memorials Fire Station.
And does it impact anything as far as the emergency, like, there's no confusion, right? Like.
120 is all we care
That's
about,
all
right?
they-
Station 120, you can say anything as long as 120 is read by the dispatch. I mean, from a technical perspective, however, anything else, we can do whatever we want.
I had seen the language that the honoring was what we wanted to affect. The naming to me was putting a big sign. The
Right,
Hillman
right.
Fire Station, which is something that I
Yeah,
don't think
but
anyone wanted.
No, I don't think
And a
anybody
plaque
wants
is
that.
appropriate, whether it be inside or outside. I don't know about the size of any kind of statue or something else,
No.
but
Yeah,
the sign is good, but
Yeah, I
Uh,
thought
but I
honoring
think
was.
honoring is
was better
appropriate.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
but I thought it was like, I think what Commissioner Goldberg is trying to say is, I thought honoring was maybe an improvement or something, because we are honoring him for all the significant accomplishments he did, as opposed, when I think of naming, I think of someone donated enough in order to name the building after them, like all the arenas and all that. If you donate enough, you get something named after you. And this honoring, in my opinion, was honoring the actions that, the brave actions that he took. So to me, so just in my rationale, that's why I left it, but I'm flexible.
I mean, we
Yeah.
could, you know, if to further memorialize or alter, so I can always pull the check or the mayor doesn't have to sign the check. To get it going, you know, we could do both. There's a wall, right? Like in front of the building. It's not that attractive. We could say the Doug Hillman Memorial Fire Station along the road on the basically the wall in front of the station, like the ramp that goes up. There's a lot of wall space where we can put that in. I mean, there's other things.
So I
The
thought we
bi-
didn't want to do that. I don't know.
That's
And-
the
yeah.
that's the part. I mean, if it's the language is different than the actual physical memorialization, we can separate the two. And again, if we want to call it that in effect through a resolution of the commission, we can change that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the mayor. I think honor is like, it's a higher level. I mean, to me, that's what I would personally, but do it both. I mean, that.
You want me to try one more time and bring back a couple versions? So we get it, let's get it right. You know, this is something that last time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I can tweet, we got time. The bronze takes a while, takes, you know, like 12 weeks. And I told the son Michael, we'll have another event, unveiling event, things of that nature. That will take some time. So we have a little bit of time to do that, you know, by Friday we're gonna recognize him as part of it. You know, in honor, blah, blah, you know, the language we have a little bit of time, so I can bring back some further tweaks and see if I'll run it by everybody first, maybe I should have done that before this. Does this sound right? Maybe we'll do that exercise amongst ourselves and then bring it back. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
We all,
Yeah.
sounds like we all kind
That's
of
good.
agree on the
Yes.
effect of what. So.
Yeah.
Very good. Moving on, fire rescue implementation update. We don't have too many of these left, do we?
But these guys are making me nervous. My anxiety as we get closer and closer to May 1st and this Friday, it continues to grow, but.
Friday, I'm concerned about everything, but May 1st, I'm good.
Okay.
Tranquilo,
Good.
relax.
That is, okay. I'm
Relax.
back, I'm back.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Glenn, the fire chief. Update, construction, we did the punch list today with Kaufman and PJL and Tom McCarthy. I was at a meeting with the HOA, so didn't make it. Some minor stuff, touch-ups, paint and that kind of thing. They're working on that diligently to get it cleaned up for Friday. Our compressor is still in back order. Don't know when it's gonna be delivered yet, but they gave us a mobile unit. So I've been using that for training and stuff, so that's not hampered our ability to do the job. Our dedication plaque delayed. So we won't have it likely we will not have it for Friday. So, and we changed the station number when we were directed to change the station number. It kind of threw everything back because that happened 6 weeks ago. You just can't get things done that quickly. So we'll keep working on that. On the good news, that Delray is going to be delivering the rescues and the engine either sometime this week. They were supposed to do it today, but they had some breakdowns in their own fleet. So it might be Wednesday or Thursday by the time we get the trucks delivered. They'll go directly for maintenance and complete check and clean, and then we'll remove the graphics and do all that rigmarole to get it done. I was just advised today that our inspection with the state is going to be on the 26th. So next Thursday, we'll get the state inspection, which allows them to issue our FDID number, which is going to be now officially by state records fire department. Up until then, we were a pseudo fire department. When we get our FDID number, then we're official. So that's going to be next week. We're well prepared. All of our records are in place. I submitted all the documentation that they requested last September. So they've had everything for that long and they've been dragging it out. So she's going to be Susan Shell. She's from the state fire marshal's office. Will be down next week, Thursday. She only allocated 30 minutes for the inspection. So I'm thinking that she's well aware that everything's in place. It's just a matter of putting eyes on things and then issuing the number. Personnel wise, I've been training diligently for the last 6 weeks. And we rented the Boca's training facility for a few days, but we've been mostly using Riviera Beach. They offered it at no cost. So we've been up there most of last week, and most of this week we'll be up there doing the actually hands-on training, search and rescue, pulling hose, and doing this kind of thing. So it was very generous to them to do that. I just want to mention that in the public forum, that they've been very generous to us in the past. In fact, they offered us to store the vehicles up there in their new station if our station wasn't ready in time. So again, Chief Kurt has been very, very generous to us. I just want to mention that. Open house, based on our RSVPs, we're looking and the fire department, their families, and town personnel. We're looking at about 250 people might be here on Friday. We're hoping the number is smaller because, venue is small, but we'll accommodate whoever shows up. All of the deposits been made for food and music and equipment, so everything's on time. We'll do a complete rundown tomorrow at 11, and then we'll start setting up on Thursday afternoon, probably begin setting up stages and that to get all that done in time. I'm confident we'll be okay. It's gonna be a busy day.
Well, plenty of food, so we're good. Right? We're good.
So if a lot of people don't show up, you get a doggy bag to take home with you. Large doggy bag. Parking will be at St. Lucy's. We have 3 6-passenger golf carts to transport people back and forth in case they need assistance. We'll be parking the VIPs and the people that need assistance on our campus to make the walk shorter. So the only downer is that the plaque's probably gonna not be here in time, so we're gonna have that. I think you want to do a ribbon cutting.
You guys want to do a ribbon cutting?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ribbon cutting.
I guess I got to get a ribbon and a big scissors on it.
Maybe hit it with an axe, a gold axe.
We'll put Vice Mayor Stern and Mayor Moore on one end of the scissors, and we'll get it done. So that's all my report. I just have to one mention, Mr. Ray Carlisle, in one of the condo buildings in town, taught 90 people CPR in 3 days, in over 2 weeks. We gave him the equipment, but he did it. So I made him a commendation for life-saving efforts, which I'll present to him later this week. He's not here today, so I just want to mention that he went above and beyond for his community. And so we wanted to publicly recognize him and give him something to remember it by. Mr. Carlisle, outstanding.
Are we inviting some of the people from Riviera Beach to come?
We invited most of the people that helped us out, including
Yes.
Boca Raton, Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Palm Beach Gardens, some of the small departments, Chief Trobe in DeQuesta, and J.R. Alexander, who's in North Palm.
And then we also got our elected officials, extended invitations. I'm guessing where we're at 250, it may peak up because I've texted a few folks that got the invitation. I said, did you get it? And they didn't respond. And they're like, oh, thank you. And I was like, what does that mean? You coming or not coming? So I think some people may have forgotten to RSVP that will show up. So, but we've formally invited all the elected officials from our district.
City of Boca Raton.
Senator Berman, yeah, Peggy Gossett-Seidman. Peggy will be here. I think Senator Berman or one of her staff members will be here. Somebody from Jimmy Petronas, who's the CFO, State Fire Marshal, somebody from his office.
How about our county commissioner?
We extended an invitation to her along with County Administrator Virginia Baker. So we did, we'd love to have him. Same with Chief Kennedy. We invited him and and our folks from Delray, we invited them. We'll just see, the comfort level of some, but one way or another. We're gonna have a great event. We, a labor of love and a lot of hard work. I mean, I don't know how many times I'm gonna say that. I might even get emotional. There might be a lot of hugs going on, but we were able to do this. So,
I mean, I also got to mention Janie Martinello. She's with the Fire and Police Foundation. She was, I called her up, told her what I needed. She made a list. She checked everything twice. Found all our vendors, got quotes for us. She went above and beyond. She did my work for me and then some, but she did an outstanding job. So it'll be a good event. I think I'm not gonna give you any details. I want you to be a little bit surprised, like. So, but Jamie did lion's share of the work, more than I anticipated. Pleasantly surprised. So that's one function of the foundation, which they've been various. And they want to be there also, the
They will
entire
be.
foundation, all the boards were invited. Boca Raton, we had an issue with them because the RSVP went into their filter, and they have a filter
Oh.
that doesn't show up in their junk box. It just goes away.
Oh.
So I ended up,
But they'll be here and I know the chief trainer, right?
chief
And,
trainer, yeah. I sent them a
City
personal
manager
invite.
Brown will be here. And I have to admit, though, they have turned the corner. George Brown has been wonderful. If you know anything about him, he's, in the article in the Post, being with Boca for 40 years. So it appears Boca is willing to talk to us about being a formal partner. So that's good. I mean, I know Chief had said that they would eventually come around. And I think they see that, we're establishing ourselves. To see the very mirroring capacity of our two agencies look similar, same medical director, staff. So I see that they're comfortable with our direction.
Definitely a milestone, and I think others will come in, other departments in the neighborhood will come into play. Don't want to mention any names, but it's just a matter of time. I think we have to establish ourselves as being serious moving forward, because up until a month ago, everybody's saying we couldn't do it. We're still saying we couldn't do it. So I think when we get past the initial shock and the dust settles, I think we'll have a more cordial and more collaborative arrangement with our neighbors.
And then once they see our beautiful station, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Isn't
And
it wonderful when a plan comes together? And when you prove everybody who said you couldn't do it wrong.
I didn't do anything. It's a team effort, like I keep telling you every time. It's everybody was on board for this one. Everybody in town, everybody, and even our neighbors, some of them just jumped in and helped us out. I mean, the chief of Riviera Beach, Chief Curd, called me up and said, "Hey, if you need anything, let me know." I mean, he was the first one of the chiefs in the county to call me,
That was really.
and it's it was very uplifting, encouraging that things are going to turn over. So looking forward to Friday.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Whether or not it comes off like we wanted to, it's gonna be great, and there's gonna be beer and wine to ameliorate any hurt feelings.
We will have a great time.
We will have a great
Good
time.
food, good
Them
company.
beer
Free
and
food.
wine Tend to
Can't
go
go
over
wrong.
really
And a
well.
DJ, so
And a
That's
DJ,
all right.
and
Our house
music.
DJ will be here.
Well, this is really a historical event
It is.
for the town of Highland Beach, and it's a triumph for our community, and
is.
it's something to really celebrate. So I think we are all very proud of the accomplishments that we all did together. And it's a very exciting time. So
Jason
Looking
wants
forward to
to, from the Police and Fire Foundation, wants to tell the media, and he wants to have everybody here. We just don't have the room for it. He's
But
very
Rich will be
disappointed.
here.
that's all we need. That's all we need.
You're gonna be
right.
fine.
That's all we need.
We have Richard here.
Are you coming?
Coming on Friday, Rich?
Rich is all we
For
need.
the food.
Go for it.
In training tomorrow. And we'll be there, early for some special photos on Friday.
Yeah, the Coastal Star wanted to watch the training. So we invited them up to Revere Beach tomorrow to take photographs and to interact with the firefighters. And then Friday, we have a few other, beyond the open house, we have a few other things going on. So you want to come in early, say around 1 o'clock, take pictures and meet everybody. So it's gonna be a full day of fun. And hopefully you're pleasantly surprised that the ceremony goes well. We've been planning it for a while and hope you feel proud of it.
Looking forward to it.
Oh, wait.
I don't think the people who founded this town 75 years ago had ever imagined we would be where we are today.
Full service.
It's a full-service community.
And it is. It's funny you say that. It is our 75th anniversary year.
Nice.
So we're gonna start working on a 75th anniversary celebration for the fall, which will tie into the fire station. So really, it's kind of iconic that on our 75th anniversary, we are starting the last piece to be a full service community, total local control. So it's kind of nice. It's good. We started by building a water plant. That was their first action. over 73 years ago was to sell water bonds and get some wells going for the residents, and then it moved into the police and all those other services over time kind of filtered their way in. But on the 75th anniversary, we're starting our first fire station, our inaugural department. So
I'm glad to be a part of it. It's been a great ride so far. I had a full head of hair when I showed up, but I grow back, right? Any questions?
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
No.
Don't count.
Hope, keep hope alive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exceptional.
Next item, Florida Department of Transportation, the Triple R project update.
So as many of you have know and have seen in the emails, they have delayed the project to late May, early June is now going to be at this point, their new start date. They're leaning more towards May than June, whatever that means, meaning late May rather than early June. So we've, got a month of reprieve. We'll finish season without any disruptions. But again, they said they've delayed working with the contractor. So we have expressed our concerns. We don't want to hit 2 seasons though. So whatever they do, they need to really start it to get some heavy lifts. So when it really only impact 1 season versus a second. We don't want to see a lot of road closures that second season around. So.
Okay. Next item, continued discussion of Milani Park.
You want to do it?
I guess, one item that's pretty exciting that, transpired over the last couple of weeks is that, we ordered an appraisal done of the property, as I had been talking to each of the commissioners and suggesting that the county sell the property, you could kind of tell that that meant different things to different people. Maybe some commissioners thought that the value of that property wasn't that much, so it couldn't really get them that far if they were to sell the property. Recall that the county paid 3.9 million. So less than 4 million the county paid for that property. And the appraisal came back at $45,750,000. So it's quite a bit more than what they purchased it for. And so I think that will really help at least put a number when, we suggest selling the property. And then also when you tack on that, the savings that the county will realize from not actually, the construction of the park. So you got to take both into consideration, the near 46 million, and then plus the savings of not constructing the property.
And the savings of not having to run it
And the
maintain
maintenance,
it.
that's right, the
Because
maintenance
there
of it, that's right,
is a cost to that.
that's right.
Even if they
absolutely.
don't put a structure on the beach and they don't have lifeguards, there's still a cost to maintain it.
Absolutely. Yeah, very good point. So that was really important. And the other thing that we are planning to do is the county, I think it's the first meeting of every month, has what's called the Matters of the Public, where people can go and present. And so we are coordinating residents for us all to go up there and to put on display how the town is unified in, we do not want the park, and we think it would be best for the county to sell the land and use the proceeds for the land that would benefit the rest of the county. So we are trying to organize everyone to come together, and the town is going to reserve 2 buses for us all to go up there. And I think it's important for us to show in numbers, what position the residents of the town of Highland Beach people have. And I guess other people you don't even have to be a resident of Highland Beach to join us. And people who want to make public comment can make public comment, but it is very important, I think, that we all show up and show, because we had our meeting here. It was recorded. I personally went and met with almost every commissioner except for one. But I think this will be very compelling if all of us go and, make our opinions known. So please save the date, May 7th, and I guess the buses will leave here at noon. Is that where we're thinking?
Yeah, we'll all get here at noon. Again, look, we've reserved 2 buses. We'll get food for everybody, so no one's peckish and getting too angry and aggressive on the way there. We'll keep everybody at bay and, real nice coaches, motor coaches we have. We'll get there and then we will work on the buses to kind of keep our, the county won't do well with an open forum, if you will, with everyone. We just have to kind of mind ourselves a little bit, keep our sense of a group decorum, no shouting, yelling, name calling, being highly aggressive. The way we were at our meeting, our public meeting here, I thought we were fine, but I guess that's too much sometimes for them. So we just want to be a little bit mindful of that and have a very coordinated approach to express our concerns. This isn't a meeting where it's going to be back and forth per se, but we'll get an opportunity to talk. And then the idea is to set the county with the foundation that we're against it. We followed up as promised. The mayor went to all these meetings, said, hey, we're going to do these things, show you these items, which is basically the appraisal, the concerns from public safety, pedestrian concerns, limitations on the beach, dune, sea turtles, all that stuff was communicated. And that's really our message. And we just want to present our message succinctly and appropriately. And we'll have speaking cards for everybody. So you don't have to, you can express your position without talking. They're just not going to let everybody talk and say the same thing. We've all been there. We all, even here sometimes we'll have people all say the same thing over and over there. We want to be a little more coordinated. We'll have stickers and do that kind of thing, and we'll just go. And the sheer numbers, I think we truly believe will express our opinion clearly. And then the county will then have our position and then return back to us. This isn't a negotiated meeting where everybody gets to talk like they're not as open as we are, let's say, with constructing solutions. They're very formal and structured. So this meeting is sell the property. Here are our reasons, leave it. And then they will come back and we'll get to see what they think.
When we went to county about creating the fire department, did we have 1 bus or 2?
That we did 1. So I got
And
2.
That I will tell you, the county chambers are not as big as you may think. And 1 bus kind of overwhelmed them. So 2 will really send a message.
Yes. And I think that's what we're getting. I know that I think the Committee to Save Highland Beach has partnered a little bit with the town on this part, or has, and said, hey, save the date. We do have buses. We do have transportation. I will, water and some finger food sandwiches, something to keep us moving. And, the other secondary things that I like is, again, we continue to build our sense of community and camaraderie. So this is an opportunity to meet some of your neighbors, talk, meet your commissioners if you haven't had a chance. But I think it's great. And again, this is kind of I want to say our last go, but this is a big push. This is our, everything has been choreographed and scripted, if you will, not really scripted, but we've planned this. We knew the date was coming and we're moving systematically towards that. And this is our next big step, and see what the county does. They're listening. The county commissioners as a whole are listening. So, what we say and how we say it matters. And, the numbers, I think, will set that impression.
Do we have an idea of how many speakers they will allow?
Maybe a handful, a dozen at most. And I think what they tend to do is Mayor Sachs will probably say, okay, all right. They don't want the broken record public comment, like, don't build it because X, don't build it because they want to hear the same thing. They kind of get that. So they will try to help kind of group comments. So we're not there till You have a right to speak. We here even trying to say, let's try to keep ourselves together. Everybody has that opportunity. We cannot obstruct that, nor will the county, if you will. They are going to work towards consolidating it so they're not there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So they will work at kind of bringing us together, and you only have a couple of minutes, so it does pick up. So the idea is, if you are going to speak, you know, if we could do it on the bus, like, what are you going to speak about? So we don't have 3 residents say the same thing, you know? So that's what we're hoping to do. But
Has anybody reached out to the Indians? I know we were just told today that the tribe that was here is now extinct. That may play a part, that, you know,
not
that's
at
an extinct tribe.
not at this point. I mean, we've had some secondary conversations through some of our consultants, one of our consultants back through. Not formally like, hey, again, this is the opportunity for the county to make, sounds Highland Beach focused, to make the right decision. We're hoping they make that right decision on our behalf. If they don't, that they still have to do the rest. If they choose to would blow my mind, but if they choose to ignore real salient facts on reasons why they should move off of it, then, you know, they'll have to take their next steps and we have our next steps. Yeah, that's all. But we're hoping they'll listen. And I think there's an opportunity there. I think the mayor did a really good job of meeting on a one-on-one basis with the county commissioner so they could hear our story. And then with the relationship of Neil, our consultant, to kind of like, you know, kind of structure that. So it's working quite well.
Yeah, I think that meeting one-on-one was a very good move. I think that's where you influence people, is one-on-one, not in a big group.
I think
Because
it's
you can
fair too.
address
They'd like to get a little bit
specific- Well, that's.
heads up, you know?
You can address specific concerns that they might have in a one-on-one basis that's not as easily addressed if you're in a bigger group.
I think
So
we have a lot of
it's a
good
good
points to
thing.
make, and the appraisal really pulls it together, like, you know, you should listen to this, especially when, if you read each of the county commissioners send their little newsletters, or you read all the things that they're trying to accomplish and these goals that are more vexing social issues and other parks that are falling apart, this is where they're gonna choose to funnel all their resources, or a good chunk of resources, where they can use the dollars from a sale to really leverage, like you guys said in your resolution. I'm hard pressed with the numbers that we're presenting, that they're not gonna, they have to really give that a good look, because the rest of their district people are gonna be in like, you're taxing the county at whole at $200 million to address this issue. Here's 50 million sitting here, and you're gonna just walk away from it. So I mean, it seems, and it doesn't affect the numbers that they're portraying as important, like meeting the square footage. We all know our mayor, she did the math. So there isn't, there isn't a statistical change in the number with or without our beach. So
And, but also, as a practical matter, I don't believe that the people in either Delray or Boca really care if there is a park, because they have plenty of beach park. Both of those towns have a huge amount of public beaches. And if I'm coming from the west of this county, I don't want to go to a little bit of a park that is near nothing and has no facilities, as opposed to someplace that's got a nice big wide beach and restaurants I can take the kids to for a hamburger or a ride next door, or something that will entertain them other than just sitting on the beach. And I grew up in New York, and I remember our beaches had all kinds of things on them. This one has nothing. And when they compare it to Hammond Park, there is no comparison, because Hammond Park is part of a big expanse that's just beach. This is a small beach in among houses. So it's not the same at all. It's apples and oranges, not apples and apples.
save the date,
Yep.
Save the
May
date.
7th.
May
save the
7th,
date.
noon.
We're sending out an invite, if you don't mind, saying like, if you intend, if you have guests with your number, just so we can get a kind of get a pulse of how many folks, so we can order some food appropriately and make sure we have enough seats and things of that nature.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to new business, resolution number 2024-009. A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the planning board and providing for an effective date. And this is just a reappointment of Eve Rosen. And just wanted to say thank you that she's volunteering again. This is a reappointment, so it should be pretty straightforward. If we could have a motion, please.
I move we approve resolution number 2024-009.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item is resolution number 2024-010, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board and providing for an effective date. And this again is a reappointment of several members, Barbara Nessel, Christine Villegas, Alan Bloomberg, Kenneth Schreiberg. Thank you to each of you. Thank you for being willing to serve again. Again, this is very straightforward. If we could have a motion.
I move we approve resolution number 2024-010.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item C, resolution number 2024-011. A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the Financial Advisory Board and providing for an effective date. I know one of the members was Dr. Greenwald, and I see that he's left, but a big thank you to him for volunteering again. And I know there is another member here.
And John Verdilli. John Verdilli.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He as well.
So, yes. So thank you for reading the names. This is a pretty straightforward. So if we could have a motion for that, please.
I move we approve resolution number 2024-011.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item D, consideration to cancel the May 7th, 2024 Town Commission regular meeting. This is so that we can all go to the county meeting.
Yes.
So any discussion on this item? If no discussion, we could have a motion.
I move that we cancel the May 7th meeting of the commission so that we can go up to the county commission meeting.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item E, discussion of Highland Beach Community Post Office, a contractual service of the United States Postal Service.
Okay, so we received notice from the United States Postal Service that they will pull, and they have pulled their credit card machine. So there's no credit card processing of transactions at our local post office. So that in effect turns us into a cash only operation moving forward. Linelda ran some numbers over the last 3 months. Basically 90% of transactions are credit card. So basically 9 in 10 customers coming in are using a credit card that is no longer accepted. So one would ask, and you can see in your memo, I want to summarize it. Well, we'll just put in our own credit card machine, which we would be glad to do. However, the caveat that the United States Postal Service puts on that is that at the end of each day, we'd have to reconcile all transactions and write a physical check. Now, most folks at home will be like, oh, I'll just rip out a check. And well, it doesn't work, unfortunately, that way here in a municipal setting. If we do recall from the charter, that means every single day that we operate, myself and a commissioner, or when I can't make it, two commissioners have to be here at the end of each day to sign a check. Before it goes through signing a check, it has to be reconciled, then pushed through the finance department, which is 2 steps. And there's a third management step to approve that authorization. Those, while done mobily, 3 steps have to physically be taken. And the check has to be written and given to the gentleman picking up the mail at the end of the day. So we do that in about 20 minutes. So it just to stay with credit cards with the US Postal Service isn't there. So Linelda asked, she also, this gentleman that is our official contacts out of Colorado. That's how important. You can't talk to the local postal master. She has to talk to that person's supervisor. Nope, can't do that. We've also spoken to some of our neighboring communities that have had the community post office. They've all stopped. You just can't do that. I think the Postal Service no longer wants to support it. It's been for us, it's basically, we pay for that service to our residents. It's a luxury. They pay us 25 grand, but we spend in total about $160,000 operating the post office for the convenience of our residents. Vast majority of our customers are not residents, but nonetheless, we still have our residents going. A lot are simple just dropping it off. 'Cause I like to drop it off in the mailbox. Situation. Also, our postal carrier of 24 years, Val, has chosen to retire in a month, so she'll be out. That leaves us with 1 part-timer to operate a full-time cash postal office. If we need to, we could, if you make the choice to stay with a cash-only operation, we can go and find somebody to do that. So that really brings us down to how do we want to proceed. For the next month while Val's here, we'll continue to operate and gives us an opportunity, no matter what happens, to communicate that, which we are doing to the general public. I have expressed in an email, I think it's time to transition away from providing that service for cost savings, parking, difficulty, working with the Postal Service. It's difficult to do, but I work at your pleasure. So if you guys want to keep it going somehow. If you choose that a cash only and you just want to have a post office experience available, I would encourage to consider a reduction of hours to a very part-time thing. Could work with a couple of part-time postal clerks, like 8 to noon, 9 to 2. I think there's a midday pickup, so we can make sure, we do that. They take the cash with them. I think it seems kind of weird, but they just take the cash with them. I'm uncomfortable with a lot of cash transactions, just making change, right?
Right.
A
means you
lot
have-
of people carry big bills, now we got to change big bills. And if you remember, at least I remember, working in retail as a kid, you run out of change, you go to the coffee shop next door, or you go to the other restaurant, say, hey, can you get me some change for this? Well, we'd have to get in, drive to a bank, and takes a couple hours to get change. So we're a little bit challenged, but we're at a precipice. How do we want to move forward with this? There are other local post offices that are close. There's one just over the bridge in Linton. Literally just over the bridge on the north side of the road. There's other ones in Boca. There's plenty of
Yeah,
both
there's
sides.
another one right over
on
on
Spanish
River
Yeah.
in the Carvel. And there's one in a store there, but there's also a post office right
Yeah.
on the end of that.
Yeah, so there's options. This is a nice service to have, but it's, if we can't take credit cards, most people aren't traveling with cash or their own personal checkbook to write out a check. We're gonna see over the next few days, regardless of the decision, if people are really upset when they come in and
Yes.
most of our cans, the cash that we do see are very small. Like I need 3 stamps or 5 stamps, so you give a couple bucks. Okay, but
Do we
shipping
know why
packages.
the post office has made this decision to stop taking credit cards?
Well, you good luck finding out. They don't really tell you anything. Their business model, personally, the business model of the US Postal Service is broken without heavy subsidies by the American taxpayer. because you have all the profit, you know, like I always tell folks, if you can make money at a government service, it's usually privatized quickly, right? So what's left of the US Postal Service is mailing a card, mailing some invites, doing some basic things that people barely do now because everyone does online banking. That's their business, their bread and butter, which is not a lot. So you put a 68-cent stamp on a card and you throw it out and you could send it anywhere. It's a great thing to have, but it costs a lot of money. They don't want to do this. They would rather internalize it, maybe keeping their footprint smaller, less other contracts to manage because they're so big.
It sounds like they really just don't want to do this.
I mean, you can't talk to anybody. You can't talk to your local postal master about this issue. You have to have Linelda waiting on phone calls all day for somebody in Colorado. They don't, Highland Beach, where's that? It's.
And then they complain they have no money.
I mean,
And I see major problems with having a lot of cash around.
they
And-
probably make about 100 grand on that little spot, They're not like they're not making money. I mean, they give us 25, it costs us 160, but the revenues are. What's the revenue on that number? What's that? 120,000 is the revenues generated there. You'd figure they'd want it, but because they pay what, the processing fee, like we do for our building department. Was that, David, like 4%? 3 to 4% of all transactions via credit card, they got to pay. So they lose that revenue. So maybe they think that if they close all the credit cards out of CPUs, all of a sudden they're going to generate this additional revenue.
Well, except they probably won't, and it'll be people going to regular post offices, and then when they have long lines, it's people getting angry at the regular post office.
And that's my fear. I know I talked to the vice mayor, but people are going to get a little upset when whatever decision we make, even if we keep it open and it's cash only and that's all the US Postal Service will allow us to do, people are going to be mad that it's cash only.
Right.
So.
This is a comment from a business perspective. It probably makes sense to close. From an amenity perspective, you got to consider taking something away, even if it's less hours of convenience. Because since this came out, a couple of people come to me and said, hey, it's easy for me. I bring my packages, I do so forth. We're taking away something from people. Will it cost us? Is there a benefit for having more parking, et cetera? Sure. But what's the downside with taking it away? From a cash perspective, and it's cash and check, I assume.
Yeah.
Simply by having a safe with a kitty of money in the safe, the change, $1,000 or whatever the number is, it eliminates the problem of having to run somewhere to get change. It can be, it can be done. If we want to figure out how to do it, we can figure out to do it. So we got to weigh both sides of it very carefully.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the post office is trying to get rid of all their small stations. I think the one on Linton is a private too. I think, I don't know if they're affected or they do more business there, but I mean, would like to keep it. I mean, we were saying last meeting, completes our town, with the fire department and that. Maybe we can, like Dave says, maybe cut the hours a little bit. Maybe we just try it for a month or two, see if it works out. If it doesn't work out and it's outrageous, but it's nice having a post office and a lot of people use it and it's easy to run to and there's never any lines and they're very helpful in there. It's like an old community post office like years ago. So if we could manage it and, try it out, see if we could do it, it might be worthwhile.
I look at it from not only the usage for our town, but also the cost effectiveness. I see that I don't think it's beneficial for us to take on bringing credit cards in. I think that's a whole other thing that I think we should avoid. So then we're left with the cash, and I agree. That it's going to be cumbersome and may be difficult, but other issues may arise as far as having all that cash with. That concerns me. The level of as well as the cost. I think the 160,000 our side would go up dramatically in keeping it open. In having, that the cost would be increased, would it not, Marshall?
It depends. If we keep the same business model of staffing with a full timer and a couple part timers.
Yeah.
We're still gonna be paying the same amount. And they'll still pay us 25 grand. They didn't say they weren't gonna pay us their normal contract amount. It's just that we're just gonna be doing a lot of
Yeah.
cash. It's just a cash and check.
So I think from the benefits to the town, the convenience, that will be dramatically different when there's no credit cards. I think just naturally, organically, that's going to limit.
Mhm.
And you had made mention, Marshall, that I think it's important, that many people that use it are not residents. They may be guests or just people coming through, bicycling or otherwise. And so we don't necessarily have to cater to them. The space is important. I don't think we should, even those few spaces in front. And then there'll be that, the issue of having that extra space for the town.
Mhm.
If the post office isn't there.
I'm generally against getting rid of an amenity, just on general purposes, or principles. But I don't know, first of all, I think you're gonna have a lot of angry people because people are gonna show up and not know they have to have cash, and they'll have a package and they don't have the cash or a check to send it, and then they're gonna be angry. And there really is no way of getting in touch with everybody and letting them know that it's not gonna operate the way it was operating before. If you limit the hours, you're gonna have people show up at 3:30 when usually went to 4, and they get there and it closed at noon. And I don't know that it's worth having all these angry people to keep something that is used mostly by people who are not residents. And we really have no way to get in touch with them. I mean, even when we want people to know something, we try and contact people. It's very difficult to get the information across. And while, yeah, people like having it, I think at this point, especially with Val retiring, it comes at too high a cost. I really think it would be in our best interests to close it after Val retires. Because even up until then, people are gonna show up and they're gonna be angry that they cannot use a credit card.
They're gonna be angry if they show up and find the closed post office as well. The same lack of communication or communication.
Absolutely. That is true.
You want to talk again okay. Yeah, I'm in favor of closing it as well. I think the other two post offices, the one on Lytton, the one on Spanish River are close enough for our residents. We still are gonna have the mailbox, right? The blue mailbox.
Yeah,
So if you wanted to
yes.
put a card or whatever, I actually use that blue box all the time because I don't trust going out of my mailbox. But yeah, I just think the reduced hours, have it open 3 or 4 hours a day. I mean, that just seems so minimal. I think the timing is right with the retiring of the long-term postal worker that's in our office. I think we cater a lot to people that are not in our town. So maybe it'll reduce traffic a little bit through Highland Beach, which I think we're all kind of interested in. I don't want to have parking spots for people that are outside of town that want to use our post office because it doesn't have as long of a line. I don't think that we need to allot parking spots for that. I would rather have the space for other things. So for all those reasons, but I know I'm just a 1 in 5, so.
Well, I just want to add to that, the memorandum that we have, it does say 90% of all current transactions through credit cards. And the effective date is was Monday. So by the time the outrage, they're going to see it, it's going to spread. We can't go there. They'll be upset. Not necessarily that they don't have the post office. That's the ultimate, but they can't use their credit card. So necessarily they're going to go to one of the other facilities.
Right.
And it's really
Right.
within 3 miles for
Right.
them.
It is, yeah.
It's closer than the bank to get the money to come
It is.
back. And
Yeah.
It is. It's faster to get the, yeah.
So
But I know it's a hard decision. I really, I hear it and everyone's even if you're willing to do it, it's just like, God, it's that.
Mhm.
I just, kudos to Linelda. She did a lot of work trying to go up every food chain. They're just like, this is how it is. That's just it. They're not flexible. They don't want to continue partnership, work on alternative. We could say we can reconcile monthly. Sure, that would be something nope. It's the end of the day. You're going to write us a check for everything that went through that machine. And that, our limitations and our charter and it creates a difficulty. So then again, it goes back to cash. We're going to have an employment issue. We had a hard time. We tried to find a replacement for Val. About 6-8 months ago, we tried to go out and try to say who's going to be next because she'd kind of started indicating that to give us a time, a couple of people interested. The hard part about that job is, it affects all government is that, Dave and I just had this conversation. You got to be here. It's not you can't remote in. I'm not feeling well today. I'll do some work from. No. You're here. You're here from 8 to 4:30. Like you can go to the bathroom, but I mean, you're here. You have to be the person running it every single day, except for when you go on vacation. And that's when the part-timer comes in to help with that or, appointments, but it's hard to get folks and it doesn't pay all that well. I don't know how much, do we want to increase the budget for a cash only to find somebody? So it's tricky.
So I know we're a little mixed here. Should we do a motion and we can vote on it, or what would you like us to do?
Well, I mean, if the next time we meet, it's the challenge, right? The next time we meet will be May 16th. Val will be done, right?
Okay.
So we will then, if we don't take any action, we'll have a cash only full-time operation. We don't have staff. We're forced to reduce hours. I'm sure John would be willing to keep it going for as long as he can, but he has some time. He's agreed to be a part-timer, right? So a part-timer will be full-timer for a period of time. So, we're kind of on that window. And again, I apologize if it feels a very pressured decision. I own it, whatever that is. I wish we had more time to try to unravel it. They pulled the machine on the 5th, so we could, keep it open until she's there and it gives us a month to communicate it's closing, or it's going to be cash only and only be several hours a day. You could do that if you want to slowly roll it out and cease its operation.
Does
I mean,
someone wanna
I'm
make a
game.
motion?
It's,
Do you want to make a motion? Does someone want to make a motion as to what they want to do?
Sure.
And we can discuss it.
Oh, wait 1 second. So not that contractually we have to give them 120 days notice. So if we did it, it'd be open for 4 months regardless. But I don't, if we don't have anyone to staff it, we've done it before during COVID. Hey, we don't have any staff. So I mean, I wouldn't let the post office pressure any decisions. If it's a clean break, then we'll just say, we have no staff, the person retired, we can't give you 4 months notice. So, but technically, the way it's written, you're supposed to give them the 120 days, but we have no one to staff it.
I move that we regretfully close the post office, that we post a sign that says it's closing as of whatever date Val retires, and we'll let Len figure out the wording.
I second that.
Okay, so if we could have a roll call.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted dissent on it, and I would say that we're trying to figure out how we can't rather than how we can keep it open.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Let's see if it can work. Maybe next meeting, put it on see what the people say. If they want to keep it, then cash. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
So We have two issues. Whatever you guys decide is gonna
Right,
happen,
right, right.
right? Whatever you guys decide is
Right.
happening. We're gonna have a staffing issue in the short term. At May 15th, regardless of our decision. We'll put an advertisement on, but we're gonna hit a wall. I mean, John will probably do a really good job holding it together. But we're gonna hit at May 15th, we're gonna hit a wall again.
And
Cause
then it'll
it's,
be tough to recruit because who knows how much longer the post office will be open. I mean, I don't know. We have a motion on the table. I mean, like, we can finish the discussion. I say we, do the roll call and see where we are. I don't know if there's any public comment about it or any more discussion. So roll call. Am I doing this procedurally correct?
Procedurally, you're correct.
yeah.
Repeat the motion. please.
Commissioner David,
Repeat the motion.
I would say it's moved to close the post office and give the US Post Office the notice of intent to close it. Because we have to give them at least 120 days.
It'll close prior to that.
Correct. Would that be okay?
That would be
Yes,
fine, and I
yes.
vote yes.
Okay, and Commissioner Goldberg,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Peters,
No,
Vice Mayor Stern,
No,
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
So I will work on a communication and we'll just start really getting it out. It looks like Rich he's got a page burner for front pager, so.
Bernie
Sell
gets
some
the-
real estate ads this month. Yeah, it will be. And then maybe that's what, again, we're just in a spot. So, okay.
Good discussion. Can't always be unanimous, unfortunately. So moving on to town commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg.
Well, I think it's a long day, everyone's tired. But I'd like to celebrate the firehouse. I think it's wonderful, wonderful news. And we can bask in that. And I was very impressed with your comments today earlier when you presented about your unique service, the unique service that the fire department gives in this wonderful town of us. So I just wanted to acknowledge that again. Thank you. Thank you to the board. And with regard to the post office, we never like to see any service diminished. But there are, this is certainly beyond our control. It was done by the post office, and there are the financial vagaries in this. So I think that it was a decision, a notice that needs to be done. So I do support that. And acknowledging the restraint of two of our members. I think we're all in agreement with that as well. I mean, we accept that, even though we voted differently. So that's it. Thank you.
yeah, I'd like to say a couple of us went to the Beach Condo Association. Of course, our chief Joseph was there and Matt was there, did a great job. But it was nice seeing them. They're the hit of the show there. But it was nice to seeing that Delray was there and Boca, and they got along. It's not like, us politicians, we argue among, they got like I guess we call it a blue line for police, a red line, I don't know what you call it. But they got together and Chief Joseph got up and said, somebody from Boca, you call me Highland, I'll tell you. So it was just nice that everybody, the harmony and everybody got along. And also too, there's anybody cares, Palmetto Park, they have Boca has a 7 o'clock tomorrow, a meeting at the library. And it's for discussion on what they're gonna do. So they relayed to us if anybody uses that going in and out of town there, it's important for them to be there. 6 o'clock? I'm sorry, 6. All right, I made a mistake. Thank you.
Well, I'm super excited to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for a brand new fire station. I think that's incredible. I'm sad to close the post office, but I think that there were extenuating circumstances that were completely beyond our control. And under normal circumstances, I would never have said that, but between no credit cards and no postmaster, I think that it's an impossible situation for us to be in. And I hope to see everybody on the 7th going up to the county.
Again, the BCA meeting, thank you, Chief Matt. I think did a great job, answered a lot of questions. A lot of issues came up about batteries and fire, things that are on our agenda to look at. I think they did a great job. There's also a consultant there who did a great job. So it was a well-attended, very good thing. And again, everybody sitting together from the fire perspective was great, seeing everybody intermingling and so forth. So I thank you guys very much. We look forward to that. The other thing I just want to mention to the rest of the commission, just FYI for your information, the two events coming up, at the fire station and at the commission meeting, I'm going to wear my Highland Beach shirt, and I think I like it. I think it would be appropriate for us to do that. I just wanted to pass that on, so no surprise.
Yeah, good. I was gonna ask about attire. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. It is important, and I will most certainly do that. And, yeah, I'm really excited for Friday at 3. So for the ribbon cutting, I'm really excited for that, celebration. And, again, echo May 7th, if we could all, it's, really great to be a part of this unified, message. So I hope everyone can come out and just want to say I definitely I respect all the commissioners and their comments and their positions on things. And yeah, we're just not always going to agree, but we're going to work harmoniously on things. And so I think we have good discussion up here, and I think what we do is constructive, and we're just all trying to do what we think is best. So, and then moving along, town attorney.
No, ma'am. I know Representative Gossett Simon and Senator Berman did their little legislative update. We are preparing a real comprehensive one, waiting to see if the governor signs some legislation. So you'll have it prior to your next meeting, but I figure it's late and you're legislatively out right now.
Right.
And where's my Highland Beach t-shirt?
Town manager.
Yeah, thanks for the direction. Sorry, thanks for the direction. Apologies on it seems a very tight timeline to make such a decision on the postal service. I wish it could be different. I'm happy and thankful for Val's years of service, and I wish her well. She served the community well over the 24 years, and we're just in that spot. So I don't know, how things could be different again. Let me come up with the couple other issues I wanted to. I was able to something that we will have to unravel or start working on, if you will, that was on our strategic plan that will be coming forth. Will be special magistrate. I have able to secure us a special magistrate, and possibly a second one. So we have the ability to move in that direction. We do have 4 code folks that are going to be coming off of the code board in August. We don't have a gluttony of applicants, so we're going to I'm going to be better this time and give you a lot more lead time, that eventually the code board, we're going to come to a period of time where they won't have a physical quorum to take action. And even if you get 4 when it's a board of 7, is that truly fair to a petitioner or defendant that they're not granted all 7 votes? So we're going to start one on the staff side. I'll work with Len a little bit to kind of get a procedure very similar to the code board, but we do have a special magistrate. So we're going to start, May, June, July, start talking about how we want that to look and how you guys want to go bifurcated. Delray does it that way, where you could take lower class of violations to the code board, more technical, high risk, if you will, for the community, could go to a special magistrate. So it's very, very clean and a little bit easier to process more technical issues. Also, Chief Hartman did come to me on something we had worked on a while ago that we may want to start talking about is beach access, especially now that we hit with public safety. We really don't have a good way to get on the beach for other spots. And now that we are primary means of rescue, we may want to start revisiting that with some of the condo groups that they have a pretty adequate size access if they work with us to improve so we can get our beach cruisers and rescue vehicle. Not so much an ambulance down there, but you think golf cart or something, or the buggies we have to get to the water. So we're gonna have to start talking about that a little bit, move forward. Again, Friday, excited. It's like, the anxiety of all this stuff coming to a head that we've been working on for so long. We get to celebrate it. I think that hit when I gave my family a tour on Sunday. I'm glad everything worked. I was like, we're never, Badger's not going to work. Hit it, the door's open. So, to see what I was stressed about, they're like, oh, this is great. You shouldn't be worried about it. Everything should go well. So, but that work in progress, all the stuff we started, God, I still remember people telling me at the interview, we're going to build a fire department here. No way. Here we are 6 years later, and it's come to life. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to come together, take a look at it, celebrate, welcome our new members to our family, get a chance to thank each of you personally and our residents for their support. Has been amazing. So look forward to that again. And then May 7th, save the date. Let's go tell the county what we think. This is our time. Let's go tell them how we feel and what we're thinking, and see if they don't see it our way a little bit more, and maybe they take pause. If there's something we can get them to pause for a second to say, maybe there is something different than the same thing that they're being told to do. So, and I like the sea turtle group. I like their logo. That's pretty cool. I know, right? Highland Beach logo kind of tied into it. That's pretty nice. They're doing great work. So thank you to the Highland Beach Sea Turtle team. I'm glad they're formalized and continue to assess moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to announcements, we have some vacancies for the Board of Adjustment and Appeals Board. We have one vacancy for an unexpired term ending September 21st, 2024. For the Financial Advisory Board, one vacancy for a 3-year term. For the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board, we have 2 vacancies for 3-year terms. We have some upcoming meetings and events. May 1st at 11, we have the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board regular meeting. May 9th at 9:30 in the morning, Planning Board regular meeting. May 14th at 1, we have the Code Enforcement Board regular meeting. May 21st at 1:30 is our next Town Commission meeting. And then the Town Hall will be closed for May 27th in observance of Memorial Day. There are no board action reports. Seeing nothing else, looks like we can adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone.